I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right. Motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? I'll offer that, this is, John puts this together based on the availability of his department heads and the other folks that need to be involved in this process. So, there's really no issue as far as I'm concerned. I think we can go with this. So, unless there's any other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the agenda for today's meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. The, meeting agenda is approved. Opening remarks. I just want to extend thanks as I do every year to John and his team putting together this budget book, although it has gotten tremendously more efficient than the first times I remember having to deal with this many years ago. It's still a lot of hard work, a lot of effort goes into this. And I just wanted to point out that John and his team have consistently delivered an environment to allow us to take a look at the budget in a very efficient, effective, and detailed way. And we're able to understand where they want to go with the budget. And obviously the questions that we'll have are always answered by his department head. So again, thanks to John and his team, and we can move forward with the first item on the agenda, which is the general manager's budget presentation. So John, you are up.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thank you very much. So in light that we can't maybe see everybody, you can certainly hear everybody. I do have them here assembled, and they will be in here in the course of the day, just like every other day. As Doug mentioned, there was total input from all the department heads, and the process adheres to our governing documents. So before we start, and I have a few minutes to talk about the GM side of this, and this budget is, if you've gone to board meetings and you've been to budget meetings and everything else, I've spoken about this next budget is a pivot year, a pivot budget for us. We've had decreased assessments. We've had efficiencies that caused amenities that have done real well. But in reality, we do have increased costs like everybody else, and we have made decisions, the right decisions, which obviously there's a cost to, and I'm going to talk about that now. You've also heard me talk, so there will be a pivot. We'll talk about that today and why. I've talked about balance for 5-6 years that I've been here. You need to have a right balance, the right balance between our amenities, what we charge for our amenities, what we spend in general, as well as the assessment. There should be a balance, and I believe this budget as the other ones, continues to get us to that balance. Over time, and I've talked about this, over time, we have increased our spend on drainage, on maintenance, on renovations. We've invested in our staff. We've covered the deficit which we inherited. We've increased our reserves, something very important, something we're going to need to talk about now because we have a reserve study coming down the road, and we'll talk more about this in the course of the day. We've invested in our police force, and we were looking at a reserve study. So where are we today? We have a stronger balance sheet. We tend to focus, like everywhere else, on the P&L, on the current year, and this is a budget for the current year, and I know that. But we do have a stronger balance sheet, and we'll talk more about the balance sheet in the course of the day. Our amenities are now turnkey because of the investments that this association has made. Credit to the boards and everybody across the board. We have a competitive police compensation policy now. Thus, the chief, the new chief, we are able, and we're almost to full staff. Credit to everybody. We are also investing in the Ocean Pines Volunteer Fire Department. I'll talk a lot about apparatus today and down the road in the near future. Based upon a referendum, we'll be looking at a new firehouse. Plans already pretty much completed. On the horizon, well, I just talked about the firehouse, and that will be several $1 million. As you know, if you've been following this process, the firehouse wasn't funded in the reserve study or anywhere else for a new firehouse. Now, compliments to many on the outside, and Peraza, many others. We got some grants, and that will certainly help. And then, of course, we have the reserve study down the road. So in summary, like everyone else, we have increased costs specifically for safety, statutory wages, insurance. These have been offset, and even though there is a slight increase proposed today, we have had offsets for efficiencies in our approved amenities. Otherwise, the proposed increase probably would have been higher. All right, that's all I have. Doug, you want me to,
Yeah, let's,
Well-
so rather than, unless you guys have any specific questions about the summary sheets up front, you know, a lot of that detail is included in the individual sections. I mean, I've got notes on here, but I also have, you know, been covered when I looked at the detail. So unless anybody has any question, I would like to move on to tab number 2, which is the general administration environment. So John, from that perspective, is there anything in the general administration budget worksheet here that you'd like to point out or you know, highlight for us?
Yeah, and Doug, I really appreciate, and you brought this to this BNF committee, the way you approach this thing. So I have Steve right here, everybody's here. Steve's going to talk about it. So Steve, it's more about highlighting, you know, where we are, what's different specifically. Obviously, we'll have pricing and different items as we go along. So Steve,
Yeah.
all you.
Okay, so general admin, this is basically our high level budget of basically our general revenues, general expenses that aren't actually allocated to any of the specific P&Ls that are in the back sections. You can see that our assessments are recognized in here. We have $242,000 approximately in assessment greater than the estimate. That's due to the $25 assessment increase along with the $25 additional bulkhead differential, which also goes in that line. The reserve contribution, we'll get into that later. There's a reserve section. So just keep that 3.875 million number in mind, and I'll show you what goes into that later on when we get to the reserve section. But do note that it's about $400,000 greater than last budget year. In terms of other notable revenues, you can see that interest is up $100,000 versus the 25 budget. I still think the 500,000 is very conservative, especially since we're probably going to be north of about 700,000 for this year, 2025. The casino funds, this is where we recognize, you know, it gets transferred, so it gets allocated out to the reserve funds. We do believe that we're going to get more casino funds in this year based on the trending, and we have that $500,000 in the proposed budget. For right-of-way fees, which also is referred to as franchise fees on here, based on the trending the last few years, we were able to take that up. So you can see that we have 225,000 in there versus 195,000 last year. So that's the main highlights on the revenues. On the expenditure side,
Steve, I got a question on the revenue, the surplus transfer. You got it listed as 560. I'm assuming that came from the retained earnings from last year, correct?
yep, you got it. So it's
Okay.
the transfer over to balance the budget, correct?
Yeah, and is that the only place in the budget where the surplus has been applied? In other words, this is the bulk of the surplus and nowhere else in the budget are you allocating any other surplus monies? Is that correct?
That's correct. This is the only
Okay.
area where it comes. Yeah.
Okay. right,
So
good.
Doug, Steve, can I just jump in?
Sure.
So first of all, excellent question, Doug, really brings it together. Based upon feedback I've received and everything, I've made it myself. It's favorability. It's not surplus, it's favorability. It's
Right.
favorability to the budget. And I know that's what you meant.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's been a lot out there. Well, you got this surplus or you got this favorability. What Doug is pointing out to you and what Steve is highlighting and what I'm telling everybody in the association is that money, that favorability, just like I've been saying, and Doug, obviously in the BNF, credit to them, we reinvest that. It's just a matter of timing of when we show it, once we realize it. So it's just reinvested into the budget. Okay.
Don, you got a question?
Yeah, John, Steve, the interest income, if there's a reason, you know, you guys have done really good investing money with CDs and all. If you take the 2025 number, it averages about 65 grand a month, so it's about 750,000 for the year. And you're budgeting 500 grand, and I know that's down $250,000 and maybe the interest rates aren't going to be high enough. But is there a reason why you're going down that much?
Yeah, I mean, basically a conservative stance. Interest rates are coming down a little bit. Basically, everything gets transferred over into reserves, so it doesn't really have an effect on the operating budget in terms of balancing that. Anything over $500,000 essentially is gravy for our reserve funds.
So the other thing is look, rates are coming down. Quite honestly, it's hard. I thought they'd come down more. They haven't. The other thing is we will be utilizing money, spending. We have a lot of spend coming up. We may not have that amount of cash in there at times. So that's why it's a little less. I mean, obviously we're open to whatever, but we believe that's where it'll be.
Other questions? Yeah.
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is that short-term rates are rising. They've either gone flat or there's estimated that they're going to be rising. And that's your 1 year stuff, your 2 month stuff, and your 1 month stuff. Is there any way we can take advantage of that?
We do that. Look, Jack, and I understand if this committee, and I'm fine with it, wants to recommend that Steve and I, or that we increase the interest income, we'll duly review it. And obviously it's up to the board. This is where we came in. And believe me, for me, to have a bigger interest income number in there right now is better for me. This is what we came up with. That was the reasons that we utilized. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how many cuts they're going to have in the rates. I mean, obviously the market doesn't even know, but we are open to it. We wouldn't be upset about it.
Good.
So I'm not going to debate it back and forth, Jack.
Yeah, that's
all I
good.
got.
That's good.
I'm open
John,
to it. If that committee wants to give a recommendation, sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah, in a summary. I made a note of that
Right,
one.
but I'm not
John, on
gonna
the
bet.
there was some discussion about the credit card fees and so on and so forth. Has that been resolved? I don't think it's been resolved yet. The board was going to make a decision on that. Do you have I have no issue with it. Is that number, if the decision changes, will that affect the number you've got listed here under what is it, 74800 credit cards? Will that have any influence on that number? And even if it does, is it significant or not?
Yeah, so Doug, that's again, excellent point. We have not made any major changes. We have stayed the course that we believe that we would, get the revenue, which then would offset the costs that we have. We did not make any changes to it. You're right. Maybe something to be discussed, but we have not made any changes, nor has anybody else told us to do that.
Yeah, and this is to the committee members, maybe one of the things we recommend to the board, saying that, the GM has kind of put this number in here based on the fact that the credit card interest, the fee is not changed.
Right.
And, maybe you consider not changing it at this point in time and take a look at, do more research or something along those lines.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, but Doug, as your point, and I know where you're going with this, and you're right. Obviously, if there is a change down the road, even during the year, that would have a unfavorable effect on the budget. How
Right.
much, Steve, help me out.
Yeah.
A little bit lower, probably like 20.
So if Steve's saying 20,000, that's not, I wouldn't go crazy over that right now.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a little higher, but we
Yeah.
can note that. No, good point.
Yeah. Done.
John, I have one more for you, and I know it's bad news with bad debt with you. Long conversation with Dick when he was around. But there's no bad debt expense here. Are we expensing it somewhere else?
No, I mean, like I said to Dick 25 times, we are looking at that. We are doing it over time. We've assessed. We don't believe we will need an increase this year. We have lowered it. And we hope to be able to during the year, but it's not anywhere else. No, we believe we're good right now. As you know, with the lawyer and a lot of changes, constructive changes that the board has made, we'll know more in a year or two.
So we're budgeting zero expense for bad debt.
For this year, correct. No increase. Correct. Which is in line with what the BNF, or at least I think what the BNF was telling me last year. Correct.
Okay.
Good.
All right. And Don Bonafide and Bill, if you guys want to ask a question, please speak up. Because I can see Bill, I can't see Don, although I do see a DB there, so we're good to go. So gentlemen, please interrupt me if you need to, make a comment or ask a question. All right,
Will
any
do.
other questions on the, general administration worksheet?
I have one question.
Randy?
It's on, it might be blasphemous about the board expenses.
Yeah.
Pretty big jump, and it looked like it was mostly due to gifts.
Well,
I mean, I don't know how that worked, but just,
All right, well, very good question. And I'm gonna
Well-
hand that off to Steve. Steve,
Yeah, so I mean, what I did there was I just a little bit conservative. You can look at 2002 through 2004 actuals and trended higher than what we had in the budget for last year. So I took that up to 31,009, which kind of is the average of the 3 years, 2022 through 2024.
okay.
yeah, that's the way I saw it. If you look, 2024 is 38K. Although, to the board's credit, the year-to-date numbers for, through November are only $7,500.
Right. Guess they need to give out more stuff.
yeah, actually, I apologize, Steve. So the board did have an appreciation dinner, recognition of all the committees and many other people.
Yeah.
What I'm being told, the board wants to continue that. Thus, we budgeted for it.
Yeah.
So it's an appreciation.
Yeah, if you look at the budget details, which is right behind that sheet, it shows the makeup, and it's $10,000 for the volunteer appreciation party. So
More quick question, under, contract services, there's listed
Yes.
other computer services for 40K. Is that for consultants in case we need them for a project or something like that?
yes, it would be any miscellaneous type of expenses
Okay.
for computer services.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, my only takeaway would be Don's suggestion that we, talk amongst ourselves about the interest income number be changed a little bit based on potential changes in the interest rate. Okay, all right. If that's the
Thank you.
case-
Yeah, I wait the interest. I mean, it's a good question.
Oh, hey, one more quick, I made another note, John. When is the, I'll ask it later, I guess, but when is the, new reserve study going to be scheduled? Is that scheduled, this year or is that going out another year?
Yeah, this is a good time to, we'll talk about it more later, but we can talk about it now too. So it's not, where am I? I'm in 24, 25, I believe it's April of 26. Linda, am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Linda's nodding. So April of 26th is where we've already spoken to, make sure I get his name right, Doug Green.
Doug
And,
Green,
um,
yeah.
Yeah, so April of 26, and that fits in pretty well. And then obviously we'd have that information before budget time and everything else.
Okay,
In,
All right.
in the meantime, Doug, whoever asked, in the meantime, I have spoken to the gentleman and have gotten some idea of his approach, their approach, and so is Steve. So we do talk, we are updating our schedules in the meantime.
okay.
That's a big one. Okay.
All right, last chance. Any other questions on general admin? All right, let's move on to the next item, which is the general manager's office budget worksheet. John, anything here that we should be looking at or being highlighted?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty standard. We really didn't make much changes, maybe some allocation or whatever. The GM's office, Linda is a part of the GM's office, as you know, and we have some other support in there. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. The only thing I noticed, a slight increase in the retirement, proposed retirement contributions on expense side, but that's, it's well within a reasonable range. And operating costs are, within 5% of where they were last time or last year for the actuals for 2024. Any questions about the budget for the general manager's office? Okay,
And you tied into that, Doug, and it's a good time to talk it. The overall salary increase percentage that we utilized, Steve, was what, 3%?
Yes.
And you pretty much see this here, so you get some idea what the GM and Linda get. Okay,
And for budgeting purposes, can we assume that across the board throughout the organization, you've balanced it at a blended 3% across the all the staffing?
correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right.
So that means that's a big number. So obviously it's good that you're asking that. All
Randy.
right, that's,
One
Anybody else
more
on-
question? Yeah, this is just for my education. Line 64,600, what is employees? What is that? It just says employees. I don't know what that is. I mean, I know what employees are, but.
So Linda's gonna jump in and tell you what this is. Apparently, every department has this. They've always had it. It's just general.
It's just general. As far as meetings, providing food for meetings that, the general manager, having, supplies.
Expenses, if there's something.
Yeah. Okay.
Every budget
I just-
for every department has employees.
Yeah, I saw that. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah. So yeah,
No, that's
minor
fine.
minor
that's fine.
expenses for meetings and events.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect, Doug.
Any other questions for that one? Okay, seeing none, general manager's office is complete. The next item is finance, IT, HR, and membership. So that goes back to, I guess, Steve, John, anything, anything here?
So just as a high overview, I'm just looking at it. We've been pretty consistent. Really nothing to do. Obviously, we have North Star in there. But I don't think, I'm not gonna let Steve jump in and root down, but nothing major, no major changes.
We have, you can see payroll costs came down, actually, versus last budget, 875 versus 827. We actually removed an internal head. Our HR manager, payroll manager is now, budgeted as an independent contractor down in contract services. So that's why you see the rise in the contracted services budget. That's partially offset against the payroll.
So it's Steve, so right, so it's just a reclass from one area to the other. We still,
Okay.
like, I need the committee to understand, and I wanted to highlight this. Even though that position has not been filled, we are funding for it. We have, it has decreased over the years, the amount we fund, but I still believe that I need it, whether it's an outside contractor or whatever. So we do have it in there. Steve, if you,
Yeah.
it's in contract services now.
In terms of our revenues that we get into finance, we did take that up slightly. That's our transfer fees and our proposed rate schedule on the front. We're actually proposing to take the transfer fees up from $150 to $200. So that's one of the additional revenue streams that we have built into this budget.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody noticed the actuals under miscellaneous for 2024 was almost 74,000, which was, and one of my notes here was this an anomaly for that year? Because all the other numbers are consistent across the board. So I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
It's driven by the activity, basically the property transfers. So, yeah, it's a volatile number.
Yeah.
So from a budget standpoint, we want to try to go conservative there.
Okay. As far as your inventory on computer equipment per se, the asset life on these items runs out. Do you need any monies in this budget to do replacement of that stuff?
I mean, we essentially have that budgeted within replacement, the refreshes that we do for every, few years on the computer equipment. So the contribution that we make over there is usually covers the majority of the hardware.
Okay, good, inclusive. Okay. All right, any questions, Don?
Utilities, you have all the utilities, most of them anyway, going down. Could you tell me what utility companies you use so I could join? Because my utilities are going up.
Yeah, I mean, we're basing it on, the most recent trending. We use Chop Tank. We do have, work in the co-op with them, so we do get some refunds. We also have, for gas, we have a, provider contract with WGL Energy, use Sharp for gas.
Oh, good. Let me have their phone number, will you?
See him after the meeting. Maybe I'll get that one. Hey, this is more of a curiosity question than anything else. How my education is only, every department has telephone, right? And are you using a single vendor or are you using multiple vendors because of the need in each specific department might be a little bit different for telephones?
We combined everything into Granite Telecommunications. So it's a single provider. They did I guess a study about a year ago, and they were able to save us money when they did the transfers over from Verizon. But Granite is the company that we used as one.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
So in credit to the IT department, Keith did a lot on that stuff. And if you go back and look at what telephone was 5 years ago, I believe it's way less. All right, thanks. And right, and so with Doug and the other thing, and look, I don't want to rehash or whatever. We also had to clean up shop in here in 2017, which we did. We found out a lot of things that have been going on, and we cleaned that up. And a credit to Doug's analysis back then. Okay, enough on that.
All right. So any other questions about finance, IT, HR, or membership?
I guess I have one question, John. North Star, are you guys happy with them or should we be changing?
I don't know. First of all, I appreciate the support. But no, we won't be changing. It's a process. I know I've been saying that for 5 years. It's moving in the right direction. No, we won't be changing. They're our partner.
Got to be some sort of
Appreciate
inside
the
joke
support.
there.
Oh yeah, Doug, right? No, it's it's like
Um,
anything else with that stuff, and we're moving in the right direction.
But John, I know when we first brought in the North Star, there were a lot of things that they couldn't do. In your estimation and your perspective, they've gotten a lot better and covering more of the landscape of the business of Ocean Pines.
Are we good with the golf before I say?
We're gonna go-
Yeah, I'm just getting the bobblehead before I say this, and I don't. So one of the things I like, obviously, and Doug, going back 2017, I want interfaces. I want everything interfaced.
Right.
I don't like manual. I don't like reconciliation. So they are working with us. So we'll probably be the first ones. We have right now we have Easy Links on golf. They are
Right.
going to interface with that. Are we going to eventually move to theirs? So we are going to move to their software. With Bob here, there's a lot more flexibility. And so that's a big one to answer your question, is that they were definitely working with us with golf, and we were definitely working with them. So that's a good one right there. Maybe someday I'll have the food and beverage interfaced. I'd be really excited on that. But right now, yeah, it's all good.
Oh, good to know. Yeah, good to know.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, last chance. Anybody questions for finance, IT, HR, or membership? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to tab number 5, which is public relations and marketing. And if we're going by our schedule here, we should be done the entire meeting before lunch.
Everybody lined up.
We're moving right along here. We're not supposed to be doing this until 10 o'clock. But anyway, all right. PR and marketing. John, anything we need to highlight here?
So the good thing with that is, and consistently is, and credit to that team in there, we have increased our revenue each year. That's been a challenge for that department that the GM gave them to aggressively go out there and get marketing dollars, which they have done. We've also done more with the expense, and he's been efficient on that. The salaries and everything should be pretty much in line. Josh, anything else you want to add?
The promotion is a new expense, sponsorships under revenue, that's the podcast. And then we've got about 6,000 in expense for contract services. That is the cost of that, but still we're making $2,000 there. Some of the promotion savings is we cut some of the ties with the chambers, and the dispatch merger with Bayside Gazette and OC Today cut some costs there for us, so we had some savings.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, questions. I had one, and I'm just looking at the difference between the 2024 actuals and the proposed for 2026 under contract services. So there's a, about a, $11,000 increase. And the question is that, clearly have we added a new marketing strategy? Is there something else that's happening now that wasn't happening in prior years?
Part of that's the podcast, 6,500 for that. We added the Survey Monkeys under there, that's 1,500.
Okay.
And so that's just normal, cost of things going up.
All right, so the bulk of it was the podcast services then. Okay.
Right, which is offset by the promotion.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. All right, other questions for public relations and marketing? Anybody? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next one up, Doug, is what, CPI?
No, well, the next on the agenda is General Manager's Office and CPI, so yes.
We already did the general manager's office.
Right.
CPI, there's no major changes. The payroll is just the normal increases. As far as the service and supplies, actually a little down compared to budget. And utilities are just a little higher as in every department as well.
So Linda, is it correct? We did increase resource there as far as on the inspector side,
Yes, we do have a,
per the board.
a full, administrative assistant / inspector. She's being trained on doing the inspector duties as well, and she's working out very well. We do still have a part-time inspector open if anyone's interested. So we do have that in the budget as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Questions? Done.
The payroll is up 25% from the previous year. Is that people getting added?
Yeah, so Don, that's what can you hear me? That's what I just said, that we increased,
Reallocated.
resource there. So now we have more inspectors.
The insurance expense, is that workers' comp?
No, that's the medical insurance,
Where's workers' comp fall in it?
workers' comp insurance, 64440.
Okay. I'm sorry. My apologize.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question regarding line item 74770, legal fees. Is this in addition to the legal fees that are listed under general administration?
Yeah,
And I would assume we're using the same firm for, there's no specialty attorney for this, correct?
We are now, right? In the past, we used different firms. We are now, it's the same firm, correct? And this is consistent in how we've handled it in the past.
Okay. Okay. I didn't have anything else on this one. Gentlemen, any questions, ladies? Okay, nothing on CPI.
Great.
Wow.
I did have one question.
You're Andy.
Contract services, the total was 10,250 and 10,000 of it was miscellaneous. Can you shed a little more light on that?
That when you utilize busy.
Yeah.
So when and I'll let Linda jump in while she's looking for the page.
Sure.
But, that's for the outside contractors that she utilizes to go in.
It's when we
Do what?
have, grass cutting or trees or anything like that. That's our contractor that we hire to resolve these issues.
Okay, thanks.
So in other words, stuff that Public Works couldn't do or didn't have time for. Okay. So Bob, go ahead.
How do you determine headcount staffing so you're not overstaffed or understaffed within any given department?
So we do that by historical information. We do it by planning, a bunch of other neat management secrets. So obviously it starts with the budget, what we plan to do. Obviously, sometimes we do have situations, I'm trying to think of one. For instance, in let's say Public Works. Now I have the team also, moving resource to work on the different buildings that we're working on. We may have to bring somebody else in because I might be shorthanded on a certain day. So we build in a certain piece for that. But it's not a perfect science, but honestly, if I look back over the 5, 6 years, we've been pretty accurate.
Head count's always difficult to maintain, but sometimes it gets ahead of you if you're not careful.
You are right, and I appreciate you pointing that out to everybody, because you're right. One thing I want to point out is we have not increased FTEs in the 6 years here. If anything, there's been a few FTEs. We may not have closed out the position, but we didn't fund it, which we always present. And the contract service numbers, I don't think really have gone up that much, have they? I'm just thinking off the top of my head. No, everybody's saying no. But we do watch it. We come forward when we do. Like, for instance, with the pipes or whatever, the drainage pipes, we have had to go to the outside, either because we don't have the expertise or we just don't have the manpower. And they specialize in that stuff. That's good. Good question.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the CPI? All right, just notice just point out to the committee, just, take a look at the rate structure here that changed. That contributed to a lot of it too. Okay. All right, then unless there's other questions for CPI, let's move into general maintenance, public works. John, can you give us some highlights here?
Okay, thank you. So I have Eddie, as you know, and Nobi Violante here. We're on general maintenance. I'm going to ask Eddie. What we're doing, Eddie, is we're just highlighting any major differences from the prior years or anything you want to focus on or have,
We didn't do anything major changes for this coming year.
Now the payroll was up, just the statutory increases. The stays the same in service and supplies, same in repairs and maintenance, a little increase in utilities, but that's across the board in all other departments. And other costs, actually went down.
We've kept the general maintenance, it's so well over, it was 210. We're allocating for general maintenance, and we've been utilizing that. Okay, so you can see, Doug, because I know this was whatever, years and years ago. We continue to budget money and do maintenance across the board.
Yeah, so I've got a question regarding under contract services. If you go back to the actuals of 24, it's like 6,500. Now it's 16,500. And if you look at the year to date for this fiscal year, we're only at 3,700. Was there something specific that needs to be targeted that's going to require that kind of an increase in the contract services?
Not necessarily. It's can't plan for some of the things that happen in the maintenance line, and some of the projects that come up are out of our well-known where we can't handle it, so we have to hire contractors. So we can sort of go on history and looking at what we have ahead of us. The one thing about the maintenance line, we've kept it about where it was at, but a lot of our buildings, we've done so much maintenance to them and renovations to them, we're starting to level out. I mean, we're still spending the money, you're still gonna have the general maintenance, but you're not gonna have the bigger expenses, hopefully. I mean, it's like owning a car. If you take and get it serviced every 3,000 miles, you never know when the battery's gonna go, you blow a tire or something else needs to be done. The buildings are the same way. You can plan, do all the maintenance, do everything by the book, and you still could have something pop up that could hit us.
Right, one of the things on the contract, just thinking the contract several the last couple of years, as you know, we redid and definitely painted, cleaned up every restroom in Ocean Pines. We're anticipating to continue that. That was 2 years ago. And that's something that I've been on, as you know, if you attend board meetings, we've had several people show up, especially the marina bathroom restrooms, and we want to continue that. I use outside workers for that.
Yeah, well, so my question comes from a different perspective. You sure that's enough?
No, and I appreciate that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I think we're fine. I mean, I guess that's it. You never know.
Right.
It's a budget number. We're guessing, we're hoping, we're looking at history, we're looking at what we know what we have coming up.
Right. And Eddie pointed out too, like a lot of it is new, as you know, with all the renovations. So we're hoping some of that stuff doesn't, but I appreciate that.
Hey, Eddie, you never say guess. Say it's a researched estimate.
It's a research, sorry.
Okay, any other questions on this? Done.
Who are we billing the labor to?
Billing labor.
Internal.
Says bill labor, $20,000.
It's there for internal departments if they do some work and bill it back.
So one example, if you could have an example just for this, especially with the buildings, if, we don't do every dollar allocated, but if we do see a situation where, let's use Eddie for an example, because he's in the room, and I've allocated Eddie there for 2 full weeks solid, we would probably bill it. So that's an example of that.
All right, thanks.
Let's see,
Bob,
Department 75,760, how is 120,561 derived based on the current run rates?
So that's the variance. That's the variance. What we allocate for that line is 210,000. Probably 5-6 years ago, the board was very constructive, deferred maintenance and all that. We allocated 165. We've continually tried to increase that. That's our maintenance for all the different buildings.
Okay.
yeah, we did that a couple of years ago.
Parks building and,
Yeah,
Never come.
I identified deferred maintenance, which was a good thing, because it was never, many years ago,
Yes.
people look at you when you say deferred maintenance and nobody could really put a finger on where it was. So John and his team did a great job in, kind of pointing that out. And I like the fact that it's a cumulative number. It'd be difficult to ask, well, how many, what percentage are you going to do on golf ops? What percentage on aquatics? So no, it's a bulk number of 210 that could be allocated as needed.
So why are there two issues for 75,940 equipment? Double.
Oh,
It's in the.
I didn't even know.
we tried to slide that one. Steve?
Treasurer's for.
Yeah, accounting error, I'll take the blame for that.
It should have been 3,000 on one line.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I ignore small numbers. All right, any other questions under the general maintenance? Okay, all right. Sounds good. All right, the next item is, more specific, is Public Works. Eddie, you want to kind of guide us through this?
Okay, Public Works.
Public Works, increase in revenue over, county roads of 145,000. That's the revenue changes. Otherwise, for expenses are down from last year, projected 998,635. Service and supplies stayed same as 263,100. Repairs and maintenance, a little lower, 300,000. Utilities are a little lower, 100, 200. I can't speak. So the total other costs, are a little higher, dues and subscriptions to 69,005.
So the insurance, right?
Insurance.
So, yeah, I got a couple of questions. One, if you look at the actuals for 2024 under total wages and benefits, and then look at the 2026 proposed, that's a big number. It's a big change. That's about $175,000 difference. And I'm assuming that we have all our positions filled in Public Works. Would that be a correct assumption?
Still short.
Too short, plus,
Yeah, but then why the increase?
There's a decrease, actually.
It's actually a decrease.
It's a decrease in wages and benefits. It's pretty much driven by the insurance expense coming down. I think it's budgeted at 137K last year, and it's down to 95K this year. And basically, I mean, we're doing based on, what each individual employee is enrolled in. So whatever mix, that medical plans are within the organization have an effect. So that's what's driving that.
Well, yeah, fine, but I mean, like, look at 64,200 under actuals, you had 564, and now you got 779. So to me, that tells me that you filled any positions that might have been open, and I just want to make sure that's the key.
Right, so that's what I thought, and that's what I was answering, and I believe that's because you're correct. We filled the positions that we were opening years ago. That's correct. That's the one I thought you asked, so.
Yeah,
what I was-
that was, yeah, well,
Right.
I just went down to the totals. But if you just look at the payroll, and I just
Yep.
want to make sure that my assumption was corrected, that there were, 'cause
Right.
in the past, there had been open positions, and I know you guys worked real hard to fill them, and I believe they're all filled now, and I just wanted confirmation.
And, you confirmed.
Okay, okay.
What do you want?
They were filled at the time we did the budget, but we lost 2 guys in the last 2 weeks, so.
All right. Whatever. The answer, Doug's. So the answer to Doug's question is Doug's correct.
Yes.
We did fill it. Apparently we have a couple open now. All right, let's move on.
And I'll pretend I didn't hear what Eddie said.
We staff.
Okay, folks, any other questions? Don?
Based on what you guys are putting together here, what kind of annual increase are you forecasting for people? 5%, 3%, 20%?
Talk about wages?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think John said it was 3%.
So this one's up 14 from last year, and then one of the prior ones was 20-some%. I'm just trying to understand where it falls.
But it could be because the number of positions,
Yeah.
yeah,
Next.
head count changed, yeah.
All right, one more question for you. I see you have snow removal here. Do you also budget something for, let's say, hurricanes and trees falling down, like one day of extra $10,000, or do you not bother with that until it happens?
So first of all, we always budget for snow. As you know, whatever it was 3 or 4 years ago, we had that heavy snow. It cost a lot of money. I got like 25,000 in my head. Yeah, I'm getting a bobblehead. We do budget for it, and there is a number in there. As far as the trees and everything, what you're saying, that's another example. I didn't utilize it. When I told you about contract services, we definitely utilize outside companies for trees. We do some trees ourselves, but this team will tell you in here, safety, safety, safety. If there's something we're not comfortable with, we go to the outside, and that could be costly. So it's just like, it's not like we have a line there that says hurricane 50,000. That's part of our contract services and everything else. We do have the snow removal in there, and hopefully we don't need it for Monday.
Yeah.
Jack, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. Eddie, explain to me what sales of assets are. What assets are we selling? Looks like you had a shot in 2023
We don't have anything coming.
and 2025.
Yeah, we don't have anything this year. It goes on our assets. If we have, say, a vehicle that is due for replacement, we sell that asset and that gets billed back to our department that came out of our
They
department.
go to auction, Jack.
Yeah, they all go to auction.
Got it.
Everything we have goes to Pete Richardson's auction. Yeah.
So it's not, if there were lots that OPA owned and it was determined that those lots might be valuable and we might be able to sell them into the marketplace. And I'm not talking about the legacy stuff. I'm talking about the small lots that perhaps we foreclosed on years ago, lots that we have in inventory for a lot of years. Does that fall into this area, or is that more some? Is that something that, John, you would get involved in?
Yeah,
And has any thought ever been given to it?
Yeah, so Jack, this has come up since I've been in here 6 years, and it was more in the beginning when I got here. We made the list. There were certain people out there, people that you know, who asked, said, "Oh, we can sell this," or whatever. And even if several years before I got in here, we've done that. We have about 20 properties that have been looked at numerous times. We haven't sold anything to my knowledge. If we did, that's something that I would report to BNF as well as the board. Where I put it, honestly, no, I'm really not focused on it. Where, yeah, whatever the controller tells me, but it would be something we would tell. But we don't have anything budgeted for that, those 20 properties. I've seen that numerous times over the last 15, 20 years. I've looked at a couple of them. If anybody wants to buy them on BNF, I'll give you a sweet deal. But Eddie tried to sell me one. It was 2 feet underwater.
And waterfront property, back in the
He
woods.
told me it was waterfront property. I went over there. I was like, oh my God. All right, whatever. Look, there is properties. If anybody ever wants to come in, we'll be glad to show them, but yeah, I don't have it budgeted, and honestly, I don't have it. I mean, I'll take advice from B and F. If you ever sell one, wherever you want me to put it.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the Public Works worksheet? Okay, let's move to bulkheads and waterways. Ruth Ann, is this?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Yep, tab number 9, please.
All right, Linda's gonna do bulkheads. We have Nobi here, Eddie here. The whole team is here.
Bulkhead reserve has increased slightly. Total wages and benefits, were increased slightly as well to 121,657. Services and supplies, went up to, 12,250. Just based upon what the year-to-date is for this year. Repairs and maintenance stayed the same. Utilities, decreased slightly, and other costs, were increased slightly.
So I got a question. Are we doing the same amount of linear footage this year as we've had in the past? Do we have a target, or are we budgeting based on weather, availability of labor, and so on and so forth to do anything less than we've done in the past?
As long as the contractor's been able to lock in this number, we've been able to do the same footages every year. If the price of the material goes up, then that may change.
So Doug, if I may, and I'm sorry, I was talking to Steve, so Eddie gave the right answer. However, we have a situation, Nobby will talk to you about this if you want more detail, but we lost the staging area years ago, probably back in 2017. We'd do staging at the golf course where we could. That's been pretty good. We're now over at, what is that? Grand Canal, what's that called over there? Wood Duck. And we're having situations where, people complain, whatever. There's a cost every time we move more than normal, just so
Right.
some people don't look at a barge for 24 hours or over a weekend. Now, the policy we had and what we've all stood by when I first came in here is that we wanted to be done by Memorial Day. Nobody wanted to see that stuff after Memorial Day, and that, outside of a rare occurrence, the first year it hasn't happened. So I just want to point that out, is we are having that situation when we can't use the golf course. And there's going to be increased costs on that if that continues. Obviously, the board, and the reason I say this is because certain people will come forward to the board. We do everything possible to minimize it. I drove by there this morning. I thought they did a great job minimizing, but there still was a barge or two there. But we're still getting complaints. So that's just something I'm just letting you know. The more we have to do that, the more the cost increases. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, we contracted with Leighton a couple years ago? Did we just let that run out because it wasn't convenient or it wasn't efficient enough to do?
So that ship has passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That if we did do that, we did save a lot of money by not doing that. If that's even an option anymore, and it may not be, as you know. And look, I don't want to get into his thing, but he may need to utilize that land based upon certain things that are coming. If that's his business, I don't want to get it. So it's not an option right now.
No, I just, yeah, I know the history of that one. All right, questions on bulkheads? Don?
Dredging, there's $50,000 there and there was 50,000 budgeted for last year. Do we just not get to it, or is it gonna be done by the end of this year?
So we have a dredging plan. We have to get permits. I'll look to Nobi. He wants to talk. Go ahead, Nobi.
So we're ready to go. We're actually just finishing up on the bulkhead project. Once we get that done, Dean's gonna be ready to go right in and get those lots done. They're on our list. We have all the permitting and we're ready to go.
So the answer to your question is yes.
There'll be $50,000 spent in this current year and then another 50,000 budgeted for next year?
That's the
Correct.
plan. Remember, we're trying to catch up. Dredging is very expensive. It's also hard to do. It's hard to get through the permits. There may come a time where we may not be able to dredge, but we're not sure. But yes, the answer to your question is we hope to be dredging over the next year.
All right, thanks.
Bob? No question? Anybody else have a question? Okay. Bulkheads and waterways, fine.
Right, great. What's the next one?
Marina's on that.
Marina's an agenda, but if you want to go by number.
Linda, whatever you want. So Doug, what do you want next?
Marina is 22,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
Tab,
so-
tab,
Let's do Marina.
22.
yeah, tab 22.
Okay, Marina.
That we're doing that next.
Yeah,
We're doing-
yeah. Yes, he's got Eddie and Noby down there.
Mm.
So Novi, as you know, Ron Fisher, whatever, no longer with us. Novi had been down there for a good year, learning under Ron, and you learned a tremendous amount. The marina right now is under Novi. Novi reports into Eddie. So Novi is the subject matter expert on the marina. Probably will be.
Okay, anything else? Anything you want to highlight?
So on the marina side,
The marina side, fuel sales is projected increase just due to this year of 1 million. So it's a slight increase to what was budgeted last year. Fuel, cost of sales is a slight increase. Wages and benefits, actually a decrease.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Well, we no longer have a marina master, so that's.
Right.
50,000 services supplies went down to 50,575. Equipment stayed the same at 5,000. Utilities 9,700, and other costs decreased to 11,737.
So if I may be to Doug before, and thank you, Linda. So a couple of things that, I go right to the bottom line. I know a lot of people do that. So we did have the problem last year, small craft advisory, I believe it was a record, or somebody told me it was 95 days.
Yeah.
We can't predict that.
Right.
As you can see, we bounced back this year and several other reasons. We bounced back, and we've reflected that in the budget for 26. There wasn't that, do you know how many there were this year, small craft advisories? Not sure. It was nowhere near 95, and we've kept that aggressive on this, because you can see the budget's around 255. But pricing for gas, I mean, I just saw it, on 589, the other day was 275, 276, and it was 3 1/4 within, 30 hours. So are the tanks full down there?
They're not full. We need a little bit more fuel to top them off.
So we've been successful in the past. Ron's been really good, and so will Novi. We've purchased gas at certain times when it was at the low, and it worked out for us in the spring. So we're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, question on the boat slip rentals. If you look at the numbers, they're increased pretty good. I mean, that's reflective of the change in the rate for the boat slips, correct?
Where's Josh? Where did we put the commercial one on this one? This budget or his?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, 10% increase.
And we're still $1,000 below.
So why don't we talk? We have Ruth Ann here. There is a pricing increase for the slips. Ruth Ann, why don't you take us through that part, and then we can answer any questions from Bina. So we did put a pricing increase in there, and Ruth Ann will take you through that detail.
Yep. Our research estimates, as we went around to the other marinas and stuff in the area, so we are still $1,000 or more below all the other marinas. So we went conservative, and we raised all the prices across the board 10%, but we're still $1,000 below. At
Ruth
least.
Ann, well stated, by the way.
Thank you. Write it down.
Okay, so it's amenity, there will be a pricing discussion. That's why Ruth Ann's here. So
Yeah, I mean, the crux of the question was, I noticed there was a pretty big increase, which is good on the revenue side. It's just, and the cause of that increase is the increased fees for boat slips. Just want to make sure I tied the two together.
The jet ski.
yes.
All right.
So did we wait, Doug? Let's talk about the jet skis. What do we got? 6.
What we put for in the budget,
For that, we believe we're gonna rent.
correct.
Okay, so there is an increase in there. We are, as I've mentioned, and the board approved, we're putting jet ski ramps at Swim and Racket. We're going with 4. So we're working on permits for 6. We're going with 4. 2 of them are already rented. And I had individuals already say to me about the other 2, but we're going to advertise that and then see if we can, if not, go to 6 if we have people signed up. So there is some increased revenue in there because of the jet skis.
Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, guys on the credit cards, $44,000. I assume that's your discount rate back to a bank somewhere. Can that, or could that be, or is it folded into the cost per gallon to the individual, to the consumer?
So being in the Met region is not.
Is there, I mean, could we do that? Is there a legal problem with that or something like that?
So, look, it's like anything else, we look at our price, what we charge, we are always the lowest priced. So, it depends on how you do it. I mean, obviously, if BNF wants us to put it in there, you can recommend that. Our pricing is based upon very competitive, and then we do it up in volume.
Do we know if other marinas are charging 3% on their fuel?
I'm sorry?
Do we know if other marinas are charging the 3% when they use a credit card?
We don't know that. They may, and maybe that's why they're higher. I don't know that, but the answer is probably. They probably do.
Well, we could find out this coming season. That'd be easy.
A lot of people are doing that these days.
I'm sure.
On everything.
They do it at restaurants, the whole 9 yards, yeah.
My pen just ran out of ink.
I use this one.
You got it here. Thank you.
Slide the clip down.
Okay, so we wait BNF on that, whatever. It's fine. I think we answered the question.
Food for thought, right, John?
No, I understand.
A lot of gas stations do that, especially in Florida. Cash.
Okay, anything else on marinas? Anybody? Okay. That's it for- all right, so we've covered general maintenance, public works, bulkheads, and marinas. So back to the agenda, we can move on to rec and parks.
Okay, so it's just a prep and shoot. She will answer it in budget and finance. And you heard me in board meetings say we did have a situation this year. What is it, the camps? Camps where we had a situation with the camps, and Debbie will get into this in detail, as well as what we're doing to address it from lessons learned and how we hopefully will address it in the next budget. So we had camps, there's X amount of them. People would give us a small deposit, which we required, but then they didn't book when the time came. The deposit was small. They opted not to do it for whatever reasons, whether they went somewhere else. But in the meantime, a long waiting list, we also lost. So Debbie has been tasked with that, and I believe she has a good plan, and I'm sure she's going to talk to you about it, among other things. So with that said, Debbie, Rec and Parks.
Hi, how's everybody today?
Good morning.
Good morning. So as we'll start with camp, because that's the biggest chunk from last year. Calculating, so it's a little bit tough when you can have to calculate an estimated number of people that are going to attend. As John said, we also take deposits that people don't necessarily pay in full the first day they register. And in the past, we've allowed them to have that full payment for the first week that they arrive back as a if they cancel. And now we've decided that, or I have, and as long as it's approved, that they do not get that full deposit back if they choose to not come to camp. We also keep the $25 fees. So what happens is every week they pay a $25 deposit that remains with us regardless of whether they cancel or not. So we're gonna hold on to that. Again, there's still some policy structures that we have to work on between now and March as to what happens if they sign up for week 5, so to speak, and then decide not to come. I'm still keeping that, but if they sign up for 3 or 4 other weeks, then also all I'm getting is the $25 deposit for those additional weeks that they've signed up for and canceled out of. So it is it's a hit and miss, to a certain extent, but we are trying to hone it in a little bit so that we keep more of the deposit monies and make a better structure on how we don't lose money on those that cancel out.
So Doug, I'm sure, and I'll jump in, we don't hit and miss, and she does
Oh, sorry,
plan, and
my time.
she wasn't here, Doug, when you kind of gave the definition of what to say on that, but she does, she analyzes it, this whole schedule, she works with Mark and with Steve. So there is a lot of detail that she's going in on that with, so it's
And with Mark.
educated.
Yeah, and with John and Steve and Mark's help, we have educated and analyzed how we can break that down a lot more and make sure that it is more to the dollar that we have budgeted, with the differences that we have to make for weeks of camp and how many kids we can have and how it's all based out. So we have worked really hard to get to this number, and we think it's a true number.
And she'll talk to you about other stuff, and I know you all want to hear about the Young Boys Choir and get some P&Ls on it, but if you look at the bottom number, we are aggressive and we are budgeting, and Rec and Parks is an expense less than where we're forecasting for this year. So, we're not just doing the lessons learned and everything. We're believing in what she's trying to do there. Want to tell them about the choir?
Sure. So, as you know, we stepped out on a limb, as I call it, and took on a very big project. Kevin Powell, the program coordinator, wanted to do this big event. And so we gave him the authorization to do it, and it turned out really, really well. The PAC Center at the Convention Center in Ocean City only holds about 1,200 people. We sold over 1,000 tickets, which was fantastic. The expenses were a lot, but at the end of the day, I think the number, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, turned out to be about a profit of $18,000 off of that event. So that is big, and one of the biggest events that we've done solely like that at the Recreation Department. And Kevin did a great job.
Yeah. And that was a challenge, BNF, Doug, and boy, that's a challenge. All the department heads have been challenged to come up with revenue ideas. You saw it with public relations and marketing. You'll see the others. But that was the big one for them. Credit to them.
Okay, any questions on Rec and Parks? Jack?
I just want to make a comment. My exposure to Rec and Parks and Ms. Donahue has been outstanding. She and her staff are just, they go out of their way to be helpful. And I really appreciate that because I'm old and I can't get around as well as I used to be able to. So thank you, Debbie, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, any other questions or comments on Rec and Parks, Bob?
What's the drop in? The 5,000, it's not a big number, but
Which line?
42,074,
Like pickleball and basketball.
that's drop in.
Yeah, so what we did there is we broke it out from a different line item that was under leagues. And that is for basketball, any type of pickleball drop-in that we have indoors in the wintertime. That basically is just that. It's if you drop in to use any of the classes, any of the gym time for basketball or whatnot, that's what we put that.
Oh, so
Separate from league.
I should know this, but I'll tell it myself. They are playing pickleball indoors in the wintertime.
That
Okay,
is correct. That is
So-
correct.
So I have a question for you, Debbie.
Okay.
If the BNF where we said to you, or I've said to you, what do you need up there? What do you need, say it, what do you truly need to deliver what you're doing currently? And what you believe is needed there based upon the demand for the amenity that you have?
I need more space and potentially a new building. In order to facilitate what people are asking for, more space, more time, all the different elements. And I've said this in the past, we outgrew it before it was finished. And in order for us to be able to provide more of a recreation department, my thought process, and John and I have talked about this, is that that is definitely a community center for organizations and meetings, things of that nature. But we need a recreation department that has fields and basketball, and we could be so much larger in our area if we had a different building to work out of. And I know
Yeah,
that's big, but
I do recall the discussion way a couple years ago when I was on the board that we had outgrown that community center before it was finished being built. So,
Right.
you know, that's something that, I don't know, that's something that's, I'd be willing to, say, hey, why don't we look into that? Or what options do we have,
Yeah.
So as far as timing, and first of all, I appreciate that for being that. Obviously, the racket sports, we're about to put shovel in the ground this month, I'm being told, yeah. But obviously, we planned for that while we were doing the pavilion and other things. And right after that, the top priority is the firehouse. While we're doing the firehouse, I'd like to start planning on something like this, and just so we get an idea or whatever with Debbie, and then bring forward to BNF and other committees, whatever. And then, so we can see what we do. But so I just want Debbie to know, I believe she has support at this stage for us to start looking into it. And I think the board, I don't want to talk for the board, but we'll find out from the board next week. Thank you, Debbie. Any other questions, Doug?
Any other questions on rec and parks, guy? Nope, that's it. Thank you.
okay,
All right.
perfect.
Good job.
Thank you. Great day.
What's up?
Terry's on.
Terry, I heard you're online.
Yep.
Good
morning.
Terry, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. All right, so we're up to racket sports with Dan Meyer. We'll assist Terry.
All right.
What number is racket sports?
13.
13.
Right, so 13 is the racket sports. This is the combined all them, Steve, or 5, 3?
Yeah, we do the detailed ones too, but it starts off with the combined.
Okay. Okay, so like anything else, one of the big, as you mentioned, Doug, you wanted, what changes from last year? Obviously, there's pricing changes. Thus, Ruth Ann is here to assist. Terry, it's the same thing. We had a pricing study. We went through the same format. A lot went into this. Credit to Terry and his background, and as well as Ruth Ann's. So with that said, I'm going to hand off to the experts, and they're going to talk to you about racket sports and, of course, the pricing.
Ooh, hold on. Terry, you want to go through your spill?
Say that again?
You want to go through your analysis and what we did? And he's got his background and everything for it.
13.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can pull that up.
So I can talk
I'm a,
Terry, Steve will help you out while you're getting ready. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so basically, we did a pricing analysis here where we researched some local competitors. We used Sea Colony, we used, help me out here, Ocean City.
Ocean City, Sea Colony, those were the closest. The only closest one for the platform was the Whole in Pennsylvania, Wallingford Paddle. Nobody else has platform courts around here. So that we had to go with that one. We are extremely underpriced in our memberships for the Racket Center. We did talk about a 2 or 3 year plan, hopefully 2, to get to the one price. To me, just like the pools, you pay one price, you have 5 pools to choose from. You pay one price, you get whatever sport down at Racket you want to play. That's the path that we are headed to. Because we are just severely underpriced from everybody else. You're talking anywhere from $100 to $200 to $600 in our memberships, lower than other people.
Okay, so let me just to make sure just that we understand. So we're not at one price.
No.
Obviously, that's something that we all believe in, but we're not there. We're not saying when we'll be there. We did take feedback from the community and whatever. So there is a long list of different types of memberships, which Dan has given you the summary of the increases. Terry worked with her. She explained to you why, as well as the CPI and the inflation factors. So do you want to go through? You had an overall percentage that you told them already?
If I could interject a bit.
Sure. Yeah, jump in.
One of the things I think the board should realize is that we've been fighting this big discrepancy between tennis and some of the other sports when we first started out with the yearly membership with pickleball and platform being incredibly low because we had nothing to base it on. And so as tennis and the pricing of fixing courts, maintaining buildings, what I would call the minimum wage going from $7 an hour to $15 an hour, all those factors have played a part in our operating costs. And I also plan to argue that you might hear from the community regarding one sport, two sport. I wanted to look at phase it in as one sport and multi-sports. Because in reality, there's not 3 sports at the Racket Center. There's more than 6. There's tennis, there's platform tennis, there's pickleball. Those are the first 3. Now there's spec tennis. Now there is timeless tennis. There is pop tennis. These are all games that can be played on the variety of courts that we have there. And so, the idea of having a one price membership is something that is for our facility to be maintained at a modern level, for our facility to be fixed in the areas that are needed, where we need to have renovations. This is the way we have to go about it.
Interesting. Questions? I have one. So, am I understanding that the momentum is moving towards a single price, all-inclusive approach rather than a la carte? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Correct. Down the road, Doug. Definitely. Not
Okay.
this.
All right. Because if you recall, there was an individual that made a presentation to the Budget and Finance Committee on, a 2-sport option. But I think, and it's Terry, I think that, I don't want to say it goes by the wayside, but there are 6 options now. So maybe the idea of, one could argue, well, if there's 6 options, then I want a 2-sport one, a 3-sport one, a 4-sport one, and 5-sport one, and an all-inclusive, versus, and we could get, from a budgeting, a planning perspective, a participation perspective, an accountability perspective, it might be very difficult. The administrative overhead and, hey, how many 3-sport members do we have? How many 4-sport? It doesn't really matter. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding, I think I do, that the approach is to get to a singular charge bracket fee that allows you the use of the facilities as you see fit.
Yes,
So-
I think we've, again, going back to, we've had so many options, and it's a budgetary nightmare to manage all these options. I only play 9 holes of golf. Is there a 9-hole membership?
Yeah.
Is there a 9-hole membership that allows me to walk versus a cart?
Yeah,
No.
there's one for. Okay,
So yes,
I'll let you know if anything important happens.
and we have a lot of people now because of our variety of membership. We have a lot of people that are playing more than one sport. The tennis people are transferring and playing pickleball. Pickleball people are playing platform. So there are a lot of people that are playing more than one of the sports. And as people age and they want to stay active, timeless tennis, spec tennis allows them to move and play an active sport when not having to cover the whole court. But you still have to fix the platform courts. You still have cracks in pickleball courts. So the costs are still there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Doug, may I, and Terry, thank you. So it reminded me a couple things. So, right, we've heard, Doug, we've heard in the past, and the board has heard, and certainly Rick and I, oh, pickleball courts don't need maintenance. That might be true somewhere else, not here. And we've been maybe we didn't do maintenance years and years ago. We do it now. That's an increased cost. The other thing I was just thinking of, and rightfully so, the committee, the Racket Sports Committee and the Racket Sports community wanted a full-time director, and they have it, and we have it. We have Terry, and we're very happy to have Terry. We've also allocated a part of Rudan's side for the business side, and Nobi from a maintenance side. So we have put more resource down there, more costs. Maybe some of them is popping up somewhere else, and Steve and I will allocate that as the numbers get a little higher. So hopefully we've explained the pricing side, but any questions? Increased cost, increased maintenance, salaries,
Randy.
under everybody else with the pricing.
Randy.
I just have one question. You talked about getting to market rates and the charging. Is that over time or is that just 1 year?
Oh, no, it's definitely not 1 year. Terry, you want to jump in first, or you want me to handle it?
Well, it's going to be hard. It would be hard for us to get to in 1 year because you're talking about jumping from, let's say if you're a pickleball member, you're going from $200 to your membership would now be $400. That would be a tough sell.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Yeah.
And you're right.
So-
We have heard the committee. We've heard the pundits that have come forward. So we want to just make sure, and this is what Terry's saying, I'm saying, and Dan, is we've heard that. It'll be over time.
Gradual increase.
We did not do it all 1 year, and we're still very competitive, if not below everybody else.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because when I look at the dues line or the $40,000 increase, I guess, and that's the part of the overtime increase.
No, the $40,000, if you go to the second page, you can see what the differences are there. But it's basically the pricing for tennis. Tennis, we went up 18%, and then for pickle and platform, the 25%. So that's what gets you back to the 40,000 increase.
But it's still not at the market rates that you've seen.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Very good.
Correct. So we're trying, the costs have increased, the amount of investment down there, we've heard everybody, the boards, constructive boards, we've done that. We're just trying to get there now. Remember, I talked about balance at the beginning. So you may, if you cherry pick a percentage or whatever, or look at a certain number, but that's probably because we weren't doing it over time. And we're trying to balance it out, but yet still be lower and not have this major hit. But again, I understand major hits are relative.
So John, are you comfortable with that, the 279 on the revenue line? Are you comfortable with that projection as revenue, given, the things you just mentioned and, of course, weather, like anything else? I mean, are we comfortable with, I mean, I have no problem with the number. It's just, it's a little bit of an increase based on, both the actuals from the previous years and the projections for,
That's right.
this year. So, that's still a good number.
So basically, assuming that the pricing increases go through, we're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Obviously, if the pricing gets adjusted for whatever reason down, then whatever that number calculates, then we're not comfortable with it. But we're comfortable with this, again, trying to balance everything.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Do we need to talk individually? I would like to at least touch on it individually since we have the sort of summary of the racket sports, but the next, where's the tab for pickleball?
It's all under the same.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Do you want to touch we've got individual budget worksheets for tennis, pickleball, and platform tennis. So why don't we start with, with the on the tennis side? Any questions on that one? You're still on tab 13, just a couple pages back, that's all. Yeah, keep paging. Yeah, you're good. There you go. I just highlighted a couple of revenue numbers, but John's already answered that question for me. If they're comfortable with that revenue number based on the rate, the rate schedule, then I think we're good to go. Any questions on the tennis? Done.
How's payroll going down from 48,000 estimate to 28? Do we shift bodies around?
Yeah, what we did there is we allocated more of a burden to the P&Ls based on the percentage of revenue methodology. So you'll notice that more of the payroll is actually burdened under pickleball. That's the result of the shift. You'll see tennis going down.
Yeah, you answered my question. So Steve, understand it's based on the percentage of revenue, and that's how you sort of parcel out the wages across all three of those entities?
Yes, we were thinking of a good way to allocate the wages for the attendance, and based on time spent, it would be the number of people that come through the gates for each respective sport. Right. So that was kind of the theory behind it.
Okay.
One more. Tennis looks like we went down from 59 members to 50 people. How many tennis courts do we have?
We have 8 hard true tennis courts and 2 hard multi-purpose courts that are shared by tennis and pickleball.
So are they used constantly, or is there, are they vacant a lot of times?
Well, I mean, constantly, I would say, in morning, in any of the sports, and especially in the summertime, it is the mornings that generally bring in people to play. Anything after 12 o'clock in June, July, and most of August is so hot to play on any of the courts, you don't see a lot of people down there.
Okay, I'm not trying to say this, but I guess, do we have too many tennis courts for only 50 people left?
I don't think so. No. The one thing I can add is our goal of keeping our costs in line, but to address the growing numbers of people that are playing. We use by upgrading our portable nets and putting down bright tape. We have converted the 2 hard tennis courts into more in the warm weather. They're more used as pickleball courts. This coming summer, those same courts, those tennis were hard tennis courts, asphalt tennis courts, are now going to be pickleball courts under the lights. So there's going to be night pickleball at our site, and so you could put 32 people playing pickleball under the lights, and or more on those courts than you would, and justify its use in that matter. But our hard true courts are some of the best in the Eastern Shore, and we take pride in maintaining those, and we do fill them. But we fill them in the, but I would say in the prime time times of play, which would be mornings. That's when they're mostly played on.
Yeah, I had 2 questions, but Steve already answered the one about allocating the payroll across the 3 different sports. Another question would be, John, is there anything else besides the upgrade to the building that's planned for that area in general, the racket sports facility, if you will?
So we are always looking at shade structures. I don't believe we have, because every time we put one in, they need more, which is fine. So we are looking at that, but I don't think we're gonna be able to actually build one like we did last year.
Okay.
So we're still looking at that.
And cracks.
So the cracks, thank you on that. So the cracks, I'm trying to develop some expertise in-house so that we can do that. We brought in the expert was it last year, Steve, or the year?
Year before, I believe.
Right, not this current year, but the year before. We brought in experts, spent over $70,000 on them. We were told, or I was hoping, or we were hoping, it would be 3 to 5 years and cracks came back. So we're gonna try to get that expertise in-house so that we can do it at the beginning of each spring to get us through there. Look, the old courts, it's well documented, and the person that even put them in or oversaw that years ago said it was on a marshy area or whatever. So we know this happened, it has happened. What I am doing is we're constantly monitoring the new courts. We put a different sub base in there. We really did a lot on it. So far, they're holding up. I'd love to see another 3 years to see how those courts hold up. So maintenance.
One more.
Done, please.
One more question and I'll leave everything alone with this, but we're forecasting a loss here of $35,000. How do we get it to break even? And Steve, you moving numbers around based on revenue or salaries, so that makes sense, but we're still losing money. Is there a way to break even on this?
So I'll let Steve jump in too, but just from the overall, when we mentioned at the beginning with the pricing, your costs are going up, your salaries, the maintenance. A lot of times we did maintenance, even when I was here, we did it. Maybe it came out of Public Works or whatever, but we want to get a true number there based upon everything. The way to break even is obviously, there's two components. Obviously, you have more members or pricing. This is what we're saying it's going to be over time. So it's pricing.
So the good thing from a consolidated basis, we are having a profit of $18,000. Tennis is tough because of the court resurfacing. That's a big hit each year.
Big hit. Right, but the membership's going down too.
Mm-hmm.
We've also been told there's many more pickleball courts out there and people would be leaving. So look, we're just going by what we get these emails from the experts down there, the pundits down there. So we're trying to look at that. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. We'll find out over next year. I don't think we saw as much as we were told this year of people leaving.
All right, any other questions on the tennis one? All right, let's go to pickleball. Any questions on that one? Yeah, I had none. I just noted that the projection was moving from 308 members to 328 members, which I think is certainly doable. The way pickleball has taken hold in this area, and obviously the way our facility has been advertised outside the area, I think that's a heck. It might even be a conservative number.
All right. Any other questions?
No, not on pickleball. Moving over to platform tennis. Any questions on platform? So just just one last question, John. Since Terry mentioned that there's 6 options now for sports at the Racket Center, does it make sense to track those separately, or it's just not worth it because of the amount of involvement there is right now? And is there any benefit to doing something like that?
I'm getting some feedback in here. Terry's shaking his head. We think it's small on first of all, I thought there was 5, but that's my fault. It was every day is something different. We're going to say no right now, but I'll leave that up to Terry. If they do become big and root there, then we certainly will break them out. Because that's what you get. I mean, if they start to grow, they should be broken out. Things grew down there and we didn't break certain things out, and now we're scrambling. So right now, no. We're not breaking them.
Yeah, I was just curious more than anything else. All right, any other thing on racket sports? All right, I think we're good with that one. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is aquatics. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right. Tab 14, aquatics.
Here.
No,
She's on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Linda's gonna do aquatics. Michelle is in on a well-deserved vacation. But she had total input on this thing, and she's been working with Linda, Steve, and myself.
Okay, revenue, if you notice, there is an increase in dues, daily fees. That is due to the pricing study. We're recommending a $2 daily fee increase for, residents, associates would be a $3 increase. There's also a minimal increase in the, memberships as well. As far as vending, we do have a slight increase, due to the bold move of we're gonna try a liquor at Swim and Racket Club. So we're working with the liquor board now to see if that's doable. We do have that in the permits and licensing that did go up as well, for the liquor license there. Expenses, increased, payroll increased. We did have a, reallocation. We did have another full-time position put in this year. As far as services and supplies, they went up just due to the fact of the increase of chemicals and so forth. Utilities went down actually slightly, and other costs went up. That's due to special events and insurance.
I got it. All right. Committee, any questions?
It's a very aggressive,
What's that?
very aggressive revenue at 142,007.
Back to the credit cards. There's $30,000 on here on credit cards, and there's, again, can we pass the 3% on to the customers? Or is that not worth it?
So with what's going on the outside, I'm kind of gonna say no.
Okay.
There's been discussions on it. Don, I don't know how much you all know about it. We're all working with the lawyers and stuff, but we believe no.
I got a couple of questions. One is I'm looking at line 46577, and the 2024 actuals on daily fees was 433 grand. Year to date, we're at 375, but the proposed is 500,000 or 501,000. Do we expect the ability to increase that much on the revenue side from daily fees?
Daily fees, yeah.
I mean,
Rate increase,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, on the $2 rate increase, it yields us close to $100,000.
Okay, so about the same number of folks increase in the fee is covering that projection. Okay, all right. And then going down to wages and benefits, my little note here is I assume the increases for the lifeguards and that we filled all the positions that we need for lifeguards. Is that correct?
Yes, and we have been filled with that, with the lifeguards. Yes, I believe we are looking at senior people. We're trying to get more backup at the senior level. Again, not an increase to staff, but upgrading certain things. Right, CPOs.
Okay. All right. And then one final question, under 76470, other costs, under class instruction, it's going up $12,000. Is there something significant there?
The cost. I think it was the movement of one of the instructors out of the employee payroll into a independent contractor status. And that's where they would get paid out of that line item.
Okay.
So reclass.
A reclassification. Okay.
I have one then.
All right. Randy.
Question on payroll taxes. Is that Social Security and Medicare? Is that what that encompasses?
Yes.
So that should be a flat rate, right? So you got a $10,000 increase in payroll and an $8,000 increase in payroll taxes. That's kind of across the board. It seems like it's a different increase. Shouldn't it be the same increase across the board?
Look, I'll look at more of the detail. I know it's also going to include the unemployment taxes as well.
Okay, unemployment tax, think of that.
But Steve will look at it. It's a good point. Steve will look at it.
And it's on all of them, all the budgets.
Okay.
Hey, John, is there, going back to, saying that you're working with the county liquor board to get, license for the swim and racket club? Will that happen, do you think, for next fiscal year operationally? Or is that something that's gonna take a long time before it goes through?
So one thing, and I'm getting a very good education on liquor licenses over the last 2 months. It is something that we're told we can get for the season. Yes.
And if you got it, would that affect your revenue projections? Would that, would that have any effect on it at all?
Yes, some revenue, but it's good
Yeah. She has some revenue. Let's just see how it works this year.
Yeah.
Tried some food and stuff down there. It didn't really, for whatever reason. So we don't have big projections or anything like that, Doug, no.
Yeah, it's like anything else. You gotta operationalize it first before you can really make any decisions. So, okay.
We don't-
Guys, any other questions on aquatics? Okay,
All right, thank you.
all right,
Sure.
very good. Okay, next thing is beach parking, and that's
21.
tab 21, if I'm not mistaken. Beach parking. There we go.
My favorite.
Parking's 21.
21.
No, I got
It's
it.
with aquatics.
Where's it on there?
It's with the.
All right,
But it's
so please highlight beach parking for us.
Hey, Linda gets the honor.
Beach parking, there's a slight increase in the, parking. Again, it's a priceless study that was conducted, so we did do an increase in the beach parking memberships. Wages and benefits, are slightly, decreased due to the, payroll. I think we shifted, one of the beach attendants, I think was originally under beach parking, and we moved her to actually aquatics. Services and supplies, were a little slightly increased to 14,400. But then the other costs, are slightly higher as well to 5,450.
Questions?
Let me just point one thing out, Ruth Ann, help me, correct me, whatever. Last year when we did this, we did have a slight increase recommended by Ruth Ann and was the right thing to do and approved by everybody. I was told, you're gonna have a decrease in people looking, or buying permits. Ruth Ann, we had a slight increase, correct?
correct.
All right, so Ruth Ann was right.
Interesting. Just curious, the number's consistent across all the budgets over the past several years, but what do you specifically have as contract services under 75040? Is that cleaning the facility or things like that? I'm just curious to see what's under contract services.
So it's Doug, the bathrooms, we've put that, and Beach Parking has it. When we brought it in the Madward Company years ago, there was a shift. They said they weren't responsible for it. And we were informed that we were doing it. So that's for the restrooms.
Okay. Is there gonna be a restroom attendant again this year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Same person.
She's
I
nice
think
lady.
it's the same person. I thought she did a great job.
Bob,
Question, I don't, I don't see any credit card fees in daily parking. Is that all cash?
I wish.
It's a membership.
The membership, the credit card membership, it goes in the general admin for the memberships.
yeah, you buy the pass over the admin building and
Okay,
then you use it. So they don't handle cash there.
okay.
Right. So but wait, this is a good point the gentleman's making. We do, as you can see, we allocate the cost in general admin. Budget and finance wants us to shift. Recommendation.
Yeah, it's been that way forever. You can't just pull in and go, oh, there's a spot here. No, you
So
can't.
Doug,
You have-
Doug, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So look, we're open to that recommendation. It's a good recommendation. Obviously, like anything else, I'm open to an allocation, but it won't be an exact science. Otherwise, that's more work for them here. And I'm not really sure what it adds value, but if BNF wants that, I can do it as an allocation based upon an educated,
I don't have
Yes.
a strong feeling one way or the other. I mean, what's working, what's being done now is working,
So,
and I don't know that there's any benefit in breaking it out.
right? But look, all I'm saying is I'm certainly open to it, but it would be like an allocation percentage.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions on beach parking? Okay,
Cash cow.
that is a cash. Okay.
So the water
It's
well.
only 11:08, so we are.
So Doug, I don't know if we can tell Doug about 11:30.
Yeah, we have,
Yeah, keep rolling.
Golf? Okay, my golf pro is out there. He's getting a little.
Oh, you want to do golf?
Yeah, I had him
All
up
right.
here. Okay, they're waiting for Justin, but we can get Beckelman in here. Because I do 11:30, I have to take a call. So that would be a good time for
oh, he did, okay.
lunch break or whatever.
All right, we'll do lunch at 11:30 then.
Here is Bob, here is our golf pro, Bob Beckelman. He has already served 2 tours of duty here, I believe this is his third. Golf is
15.
15.
All
right, tab 15.
15.
And Justin's also on the premise.
Justin's here as well. Okay. So tab
Okay,
15 is.
Here he is, right on cue. So Bob and I haven't had a chance. Bob, so obviously Dan will help you with the pricing. And I have to say this, just like all our department heads, we got the expertise. Bob's obviously got, how many years down here on the Eastern Shore pricing?
35.
All right, very good number, 35. So the pricing and everything, we did get some questions. Why didn't we do this? Why did we do that? Linda updated Bob on those questions that we received from the outside homeowners, and he'll answer that. Bob, why don't you start off with, you got a really good story to tell here. Budget,
Did you want me to address the question first?
whatever way you want.
I think the question was about cart fees.
Yep, that was one of them.
And the cart package.
Right.
So typically, carts are included in the green fee number, and I also consider in the membership number if somebody does get a cart package. So when we raise membership, it also raises the membership if they have a cart plan. I don't think it's wise to do both personally. So if you're raising the membership fee $100, you'd also be raising the cart fee, say $50. The cart fee number when it was created, or the cart package number when it was created, was based on a certain number of rounds. Because what people do is they say, okay, I play about this many rounds a year at $25 a cart, it would be about this much. So I'm better off getting the cart package. So when I did the math, again, it came out to about 2 rounds a week for an 8-month season on average. And I think that's a pretty good number. I think if you raise the cart package number, less people would join membership and less people would get the cart package. So I personally think it would be self-defeating, so to speak. Also, when we raise general green fees, we raise the green fee portion of it and not the cart fee portion of it, because again, they're a combined total rate. Like out of $100 green fee, $25 goes to cart. If you raised cart fee as well, it's not as advantageous tax wise.
Oh, no, we don't. All right, so like whether I agreed or not, I went with Bob. Bob is 35 years. I think we have the best person, like we have for every other many, to do the pricing. So that's where we are on that. So Ruthann, as far as the pricing, do you want to tell them whatever the percentages are? Okay, Bob, why don't you do it? Because Ruthann doesn't have that page.
Percentages, I can tell you dollars.
Yes, he did dollars.
On the family membership, it went up $75. The family after 12 went up $50. Again, I haven't been raising up the any memberships that don't have very many members currently in that category. So doesn't seem to make sense to raise the price of something you're not selling anyway, if that makes any sense. The individual membership went up $100, individual after $12.50. We did not change the junior membership. Associate individual went up 50, associate family went up 50, associate family after 12 went up 100, and associate individual after 12 went up 100 also.
So Bob, just in general, where does that put us, even with those increases, compared to everybody else down here?
We're trying to catch up to primarily River Run and Ocean City. With this $100 increase for the individual member, we're closer than we were before. I think River Run is at 1,900, we're at 1,800. If we raise it 100 this year, Ocean City was about the same, 1,900, 1,950. And again, we're trying to close in and stay as close to their individual membership rates as we can.
Thank you, Bob. Anything else you want to highlight as far as a major change or anything from the prior years on the non-maintenance side, Bob?
Well, we did raise public rates, package rates. We also raised some twilight fees on weekends. So we're anticipating the trend to continue, more rounds for public play, more rounds from resident, more rounds from package play. And at a higher rate, we are anticipating slightly higher revenues in green fees and carts. Those, I think, were the primary changes or increases in my side of the.
What about did you answer the non-homeowners of Ocean Pines? Did we do an increase there? Somebody sent me an email saying we did not increase it.
We did not increase the rate.
I'm just saying what they said. Can you tell us what you did?
Yeah, I did increase rates for package and public play. Sorry.
The bottom line is we did increase it, so I don't know why somebody sent us that email.
Our highest package and public rate this year is 115. We raised that over last year from 110. We raised basically all the rates other than the winter rates, $3 to $5. Fall prime went to 80, from 85 to 90, went from 90 to 110. And basically where I come up with those rates is I sit down with the package companies each year at least once and have a discussion with them to try to figure out where we fit kind of in the package world, what rate makes sense for us. One of the things we're trying to do is we're still trying to grow the numbers of package rounds and the number of public rounds. So we're increasing our rate each year slowly to, again, stay in that kind of sweet spot with the other courses in the area and also to make more revenue for us each year.
So Bob, so one of the things I talk about in board meetings is enhancement. We want to enhance the customer experience, enhance all the amenities, and we talk about that. You have the Golf Academy there. I got an email on that also. Somebody said to me, and we noticed you're doing work down there and everything. You know, who pays for that or whatever. Now, I know you benchmarked, you gave me advice on what to charge for the rent there. But there's a lot of ancillary revenue that comes in from that. But I want you to talk about the whole thing. The academy, what we get in rent, what we put out down there, as well as the ancillary revenue that we get with that.
Gotcha. So the Golf Academy pays Ocean Pines $700 a month for rent. He also does a lot of stuff. The Golf Academy does a lot of stuff for our members there. He holds some clinics for them as well. And he also includes, I shouldn't say he includes, we do a lot of instruction down there also. So myself, Brian Davis, and John O'Connor also do clinics, lessons, helping with schools and stuff like that. And 20% of that income goes to Ocean Pines under the lesson category. The other thing we do get is an awful lot of his students become golfers at Ocean Pines. And of course, that's part of the whole reason you do instruction at a golf course. if you want to create a new generation of golfers, you're hoping that if they stay in the area, they'll play golf at your place. So it's helping us increase the revenue rounds and the outside, I call them the public rounds as well. And they buy merchandise in the shop. They use the driving range and all that good stuff as well.
So again, an example, and this has been a great example of golf over the last 5-7 years, ever since the constructive board and the homeowners paid for the clubhouse. In the past before that, it was constant budget meetings where it was cut golf more. We've done nothing but invest there, and you can see the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. This is another example, along with the fine young gentleman down there and his team, and Bob's, what they do down there for golf. That's all I got on that. Jack, what say you play that golf course?
No. The question that I would have for Bob is, what's the plan that you have in place to increase your membership by, looks like what? 41 folks?
41 total.
Yeah, total.
It's very similar to what we did last year. Last year, we increased the membership numbers. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me right now, but I can look it up. But we increased the membership numbers significantly. And basically from day one, the plan has been to make the Ocean Pines Golf Course and Club a more palatable experience for anyone who wants to play there. And if they enjoy it, they'll want to play it more. If they're playing enough, they'll want to become a member. So that's kind of part one. We tried to change the culture there to really make it user-friendly, member-friendly. We try to be friendly and welcoming to everyone. So that as well as the golf course conditions that Justin's been bringing along.
Exactly.
And I think the whole atmosphere and culture that the board has helped create in Ocean Pines has been positive. So people are more likely to join any of the amenities with, kind of the positive atmosphere going on.
Yeah.
Along with that, we've used Josh and Nancy to promote the memberships. We'll be starting to do that again, probably this month all the way through May. Let people know what memberships are out there, the different types of memberships you can join, and push, what a great value it is.
So we're investing in the amenity, and it's showing dividends. It's a good segue. Bob opened it up for Justin, and we are putting in a new irrigation that everybody knows about. But the better we keep the course, and the better we make it, the more play we're going to get. We certainly have the customer service. We have the team in place for everything else. So if you're all okay I'd like to get Justin in there. If you have any questions for Bob.
No, Jack, I had the same question about the membership that Bob answered, but I looked at the revenue numbers. They're very reasonable. I don't see any reason why we at least meet, if not exceed them. So
the other thing I talk about ancillary from the Golf Academy down to memberships and the driving range, club fitting and all this stuff. The job that golf's doing obviously is generating that grill. And of course, the team that's in there, credit to them. But that grill will probably do even better as golf increases, especially with outside play. So with that, Doug, if good, I'd like to get Justin in there. Obviously, this is the expense side. This is very important to me and everybody else. Justin and his team, along with Bob, are doing a great job now. Justin.
Yep, so obviously I'm trying not to spend all that money Bob's making for golf, but we do need to maintain the property. So we're trying to stay as efficient as possible. Obviously payroll and chemical and fertilizer are usually my two biggest line items for making that happen. We've been pretty efficient. We actually eliminated a payroll position, I believe, in this upcoming budget. But we've been making a lot of good things happen. We still have a couple positions to fill. So we're not completely full, but saw a position there we didn't need. And then also just because just with the academy, the conditions, the amount of golf we've seen, we did add a little bit to chemical and fertilizer. We'll probably have a few more inputs. We're seeing a lot of traffic, a lot of wear and tear on the course. So we're just doing our best to stay ahead of anything that could cause issues due to traffic. And then probably one of the biggest things I would be with John and the board is just the capital improvements to the golf course. We've been keeping up with replacing equipment when needed, looking at the irrigation system now. That keeps my department very efficient, so that makes a huge impact in how we provide conditions.
So, look, I'm not gonna deny it, the golf is capital intensive, we're covering it. The amount of time his team has spent on irrigation and money, that won't be a savings down the road. That'll be more time and hopefully get the expertise into the sand traps, the rough, and other things that have improved dramatically, but we want to bring even more to that. And I see Justin's nodding. So there is a plan down there. The plan's 5 years in the making. Obviously, we need another 4. All
right, any questions? All right, I have one question, one comment. Looking at the total repairs and maintenance, you're proposing 47,400. Is that enough?
Yes, actually, to be honest, Matt down there in the shop has been quite efficient. And the new equipment fleet has helped. A lot of that is preventative maintenance. So just a lot of filter oil changes, and then just real maintenance on the mowers. Yeah, I feel like he's done a really nice job of maintaining and taking care of the fleet. So we've actually been able to keep that number pretty reasonable, and especially with our replacement plan for equipment, it's helped us keep that number down a little bit.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is if you look at the 2024 actuals, it was 60,000, and now you're down to 47,000. And the idea would be, are we trying to make a number look good, or are we making sure that we're allocating enough money to keep that kind of maintenance up?
I think because we've been really looking at it and maintaining the equipment, we're really doing more basic maintenance now with a newer fleet instead of tackling huge problems that arise from older equipment.
Right.
And we still have some old pieces. You're always going to run into some of those issues, but we're doing a lot more preventative maintenance of a much newer fleet now than we were a few years ago.
Okay, and then the comment is, I just want to remind, if you go back to the guidance that the Budget and Finance Committee posted, item 7 was consideration should be given to optionally accelerating funding for golf course irrigation. We wanted to go on record as saying if there's an opportunity to continue with that rather than wait to another fiscal year, the Budget and Finance Committee is recommending that the board consider moving forward since that money is already in reserves and not wait an entire year or some period of time, because John and his team would have the obviously the material cost locked in, the labor rate locked in. So we want to make sure the board is aware of the fact that we would promote the idea of accelerating to get that if it presents itself, if the opportunity presents itself, to have that accelerated into the existing fiscal year and keep the project moving forward. So
Doug, I gotta say, somebody sitting in my seat, no matter who it is, whether it's me or whatever, we welcome that. We appreciate that proactive, constructive understanding that look at what this golf course is doing. Look at the acceleration of memberships and everything, and that let's get this thing done. Let's take care to make sure the type of emergencies we have. We appreciate that. We are working on that. We are looking especially at the price to see if we did something now, like you said, this is money. Is a savings that we can address an emergency. We will do that. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, always looking at that. Obviously, we have it in there for replacement, so it is coming. And if we can, take advantage of financially good times and, just weigh up more of it, it's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
So,
Thank you, BNF.
any other questions on golf maintenance? Okay. John, Justin, thank you guys. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the police. Chief Robinson, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi. What tab is that?
Tab 11.
Tab 11.
All right. So please,
I can see.
The floor is yours. Please highlight any issues, anything that's noteworthy on this budget tab. And, if we've got any questions, we will certainly let you know.
But Chief, let's do this. Chief hasn't been, so Chief, what Budget and Finance is asking us to do is what's different from in the past? What do you want to highlight and what do you want to talk about? But the main thing is what's different from in the past.
Well, what's different from the past, from the previous budget, is we are getting up to staffing now. We are up to, as of today, 12 officers, which is much better. There were 7, including myself, that were active when I came here. And we are looking before the end of this budget year to get up to a total of 14, which will probably do us for a short while, for a while. One of the things we are also looking at is to maintain the take-home car program, which I think is a very good thing to make us competitive, as well as our competitive salary that we have. The reputation of the Ocean Pines Police Department, I think, has grown tremendously over the last year, and we have become a place where people want to now work and follow. One of the things that I'm very proud about since I've been here is the grant money that I've managed to bring in from the state. Some of it has helped to pay for some of the unfunded mandates that have been placed on us by the state, and also to pay for some items that we like to have here in the police department. Our newest grant that we got is going to help us to bring in a TASER program, which we do not have here. We're probably the only police department in the region or anywhere in the state that does not equip their officers with TASERs, which are a great alternative to a lethal force situation. One of the things I do want to bring out is I know we've been spending a lot of money in overtime. I am definitely confident that figure is going to be coming down dramatically before the end of this budget year, especially as we go forward to the next budget year as we get up to strength. And right now we've been having to cover shifts with overtime, and to maintain that we make sure we have the right amount of people. Because I'm not comfortable sometimes just having one person working. We have been very fortunate. The Sheriff's Office and State Police have been very good at helping us, but I do like maintaining a force here that's quite competent, and we are going to be very self-sufficient. And I think we're going to have a force here that Ocean Pines is going to be proud of.
Chief, you mentioned cruises. How many cruises do you have in this proposed budget?
One.
One additional.
One new police car in this budget. And that should put us into a position that we will be fully with the officers that we're planning on having. We'll be able to maintain a viable take-home car program, which is going to put us in line with everybody else does and makes us attractive. And the goal is we want people to come here and stay here for a little while, because it's very expensive to train somebody at the academy for them to leave shortly after getting here and getting their certification.
Chief, how about at the senior level? Are you comfortable with how you man that? Senior level officers?
On the senior levels, right now we have 2 openings for sergeants, and I have implemented right before Christmas. I finalized the policy for promotional testing, which is bringing us in line in terms of a professional police agency, what everybody does. They have until any potential officer who wants to apply for promotion has to 12 noon tomorrow, turn in their application for promotion. We're bringing people in and sometime in late January, early February to do promotional assessments from other departments, to allow myself to help pick the 2 new sergeants and to go forward from there.
So Doug, and I'm gonna let us, well done, Chief. A couple of things. When you look at the numbers and you look in the prior years, obviously we were short staffed. One of the things we talked about the increase in safety, and I've given everybody the percentages and everything, but this budget now obviously includes the mark-to-market increased salaries we gave everybody last year, the pension equivalent funded at 15%, which we've had, but now we have the numbers of officers, so that will get us to where this budget really is going to be. So you are going to see a couple different things compared when you look at the prior years, as offset by the the short staff, but then in there, like the chief said, the overtime. So the price of safety has gone up. We pretty much explained it to you. Any questions? Chief did a good job stepping up.
Yeah, just a real quick question. So under payroll, the 1.36, is that inclusive of the 14 officers or is that just covering the 12 existing ones?
It's the 14.
Okay, so we've got, if we're fortunate enough to get another couple of hires, we've already got the budget for it.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
and a question, and John knows this, and is that enough? Is that number good enough? We're not shortchanging ourselves.
14 offices is a good number at that point. We are striving to get to full. And obviously, he's got 4 or 5 months to fill those before the budget even starts. The ones that are open.
Okay. All right. Questions for police department budget worksheet?
Yeah, I have one. With these state grants, are there any restrictions, guidelines, requirements, or things that we have to do and perform in receiving this money from the state?
Well, some of the state grants are specifically earmarked for certain projects. So I can't just use that for anything. For example, we just got almost $65,000 from the state, but that is to pay for the tasers. I can't turn around and use that for something else. The most recent grant for that was $35,000 to pay for the first year of the unfunded requirement for the body cameras. And again, that money's earmarked for certain things. But I applied for it, and I applied for it under parameters of when they put them out. This is what I'm applying for the money for. This is how I'm going to use it, and this is where I'm going to spend it. And then a committee up the road in Annapolis makes a determination if they're going to award Ocean Pines the grant.
Does the county work the same way?
Yeah, all police departments work the same way. My previous employment, I wrote grants there, and it was exactly the same thing there.
Okay. But you see, the county hasn't changed for several years, the amount. But it's like you're taking a cut.
All right, any other questions for Chief Robinson? No, pretty straightforward. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Chief. What's up next, Linda?
Fire department, I don't have their phone number to reach out to them.
I'm sorry?
Fire
Oh,
department,
who else do we have?
food and beverage.
Food and beverage, that's it? Just 2 left?
And then we have capital and reserve,
Okay. So fire department's showing up at what time?
115.
Fire department will be here at 1:15. So we're gonna have food and beverage. All right, budget and finance, food and beverage. Today you get me. As you know, we have sent out for proposal. I thought by now we would have the selected vendor that, however, based upon timing, based upon getting the material that we needed to go to this stage, I actually just received it. So we are scheduling, and there will be some type of meeting next week. We're trying to do that now. Linda, we're looking for Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
So by Wednesday, we believe that we will have a signed contract. I will reach out to, I believe the number out there, whatever number of bidders we have, the number that's out there is 3. I will be reaching out to them sometime over the next several days, if not next week. We hope to have a meeting by Wednesday. We're setting it up as we speak. So we do have a contract material that I can negotiate with a bidder. Apologies, I'm the one running this thing. It did take a little longer. It was a lot of logistics, but it was more on just getting the contract together and all that stuff. It certainly wasn't anything outside of what I talked about at the last meeting. So with that said, obviously, I have a budget, I have a proposed budget, a preliminary proposed budget, and I had to come up with something. Linda, Steve, myself, and others, and I'll answer any questions and tell you what we did in more detail. Based upon history, based upon what we've seen here, using numbers, for instance, on how much revenue. What we've seen there, when we look back over the last couple of years, specifically the last 2, what the revenue number is, obviously we have the margins. So if I have the revenue number, and we took 3 different revenue numbers, and I kind of got parameters, a low end, a high end, kind of a middle piece, which is what we went with in this budget. Obviously, next week I may have an adjustment or may not have an adjustment either way based upon who's signed and who we go forward with. In the meantime, I believe I have a good number in there.
Okay, well, you know, yeah, and like anything else.
Questions, but obviously it's on estimates. It's no different than any other budget, quite honestly.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you, John.
But
I'm with you, John. It's, you can base this, your budget based on the historical, you know, budget from the past 2-3 years. So, you know, there's no issue there. I don't, unless something drastically changes, then you'll address it if it does, right?
Exactly, Doug. I
Yeah.
took a low end, I got a high end, I took the middle, I took the middle road.
Okay, all right. So let's go to Clubhouse Grill, break one.
So the Clubhouse Grill, what we did, the schedule, assuming you have the schedules, right? So on the schedule, we don't have the proposed budget, which I will talk to you about, but we did, the big thing was doing the estimate.
Yeah.
And, you know, the forecast. So Steve's done that, we've all done that, and we've come up with some numbers. And that's what we have.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, it's a little difficult since we don't have the proposed one, but can we make a generalized statement that there's nothing in the proposed, you know, that would be so far out of reach that would be totally different from the last couple of years?
Correct.
Would that be a fair statement? It's going to be fairly close to what the past couple of years have been, correct?
Well, it's going to be higher than what we've seen. I'll be honest with you on that.
Okay.
It's been higher. It's definitely the numbers that I've gone with in this proposed budget for operational are definitely higher than the forecasted numbers for this year.
Okay.
As
All right.
well as what we did last, the year that we closed out already. They're higher than that.
So are we going to be able to take a look at the proposed numbers when you get them? Or is that something that's just we're just going to go on good faith that we're moving forward and let the board deal with it?
Oh, no, I see what you're saying. So Wednesday, so assuming, and again, we're setting up as we speak, a meeting, assuming the meeting's Wednesday, I would love to have it Monday. It looks like it's Wednesday. I definitely can I'm comfortable with the numbers. But yeah, Wednesday obviously would be obviously having a vendor would be a big one.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I guess at the end of the day, we're, you know, as long as nothing's going to change drastically, there's really not a whole lot to say about the, you know, the clubhouse or beach club or yacht club, because, you know, there's so many numbers are.
Yeah, so let me give you this. Do you have the schedule? They have the schedule, the summary schedule?
They should, yep.
So hopefully you all have the summary schedule, and on the bottom is food and beverage. Do you have it? It says departmental summary.
Oh, yeah, you guys.
Okay, so if you all have this, so put it in
You got
perspective.
that page. I gave it to you at the beginning of I gave it to you at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah, this is the one for Bill.
So-
Bill, we have yours right here.
So if you go down to the bottom again, look. food
It
and
should be
beverage-
back it should be in the front of your, you know, all the way back at the front, departmental summary,
Right.
like tab 1 or 2.
Yeah.
There you go. Randy's got it.
So this kind of ties into, and again, we have a lot more detail, but this is what I was saying. So if I look at sales and I take the first column, I take 4.5 million. The second column, I used an estimate of 4.7 million. In the third column, I took 6 million. Now, the 4.5 is what we're forecasting will be the actual for this year. Last year, the year we closed out, it was 4.7, and then we used 6 million.
Okay.
When I look at margins, the margins are pretty much consistent in food and beverage, pretty much consistent across the board with any vendor that's been in here or whatever in general.
Right.
I take that, I come down, as you can see, the first estimate, the low end, a net operating profit of 334,000, rounded.
Right. Got it.
Which may be where we are this year, if not lower, when we close out this year. The second column, the middle column, the column I went with Steve, we all went with. I'm looking at $4.7 million of revenue.
Overall sales, yeah.
I'm looking at margins. I'm looking at what I've heard talking to many bidders over the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And we come up with, and you gotta look at the overall. The overall there is 562,000.
Right.
So you all know our depreciation is somewhere around 380. So you subtract the 3, because this is operational, subtract the 380. Steve, what is that? 180. So that's what we would make after depreciation, which is probably higher than what we have. Certainly that I've been looking at. And then the third one is, and look, some people will say it's whatever, and I've actually heard a board member say that. When you look at 6 million, what would we do? And look, I'd love for any bidder to come in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We would then have an operational number of 700,000. So I didn't go with the low number. I didn't go with the high number. I went with the 564,000, which I believe is a strong number for this association, those 3 venues.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
what's-
we're at 4.5 right now. And quite frankly, to go up to 4.7, the novelty of a change alone should generate, get you to 4.7. People will be interested in seeing how things, are moving forward and so on and so forth. You're probably just going to get some more participation. I think it's an educated guess, So yeah, that 4.7 number works for me.
Thank you, Doug.
So any questions? And I know we didn't, we don't have all the detail and everything, but the idea here is if you look at the end of the day.
Yeah. We will
Yeah.
generate detail if you want it. We actually have it. Again, these are assumptions. We used margins. But again,
Yeah.
Wednesday, not too far away.
I see no reason to make any extra work for the staff. I mean, at the end of the day, if these numbers are being presented to us as, an estimate of what's been going on, I'm fine with that. I don't see any real reason to get in any other level of detail, especially given the situation where we're looking at another vendor and, I don't want to use it. It's maybe fluid's the right word. Some things coming back through, John might want to make some adjustments here and there based on what happens in the negotiation. So I'm perfectly satisfied with this.
Yeah, and the vendor, it's in the papers. I don't know how it got in the papers, whatever. We're looking at company B, whoever company B is. I'm sure that if company B does sign, and look, we're not even 100% sure if company, I believe we'll be in that ballpark. This is the number.
Good. All right. Any other questions on the food and beverage operation? Okay, that sounds good, John. I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Budget and Finance, Doug.
And we're way ahead of schedule here, so we have to wait for.
So we can do. You want to do a reserve?
Capital.
You want to do reserves? Because I got a couple of questions that Frank Brown sent me in an
Okay,
email last night.
Okay, we'll do questions.
Tab 23.
Let's do reserves. Yeah.
Oh, wait, you want to do the questions, Doug? We'll do them.
Let me make sure. One of them. Oh, so no priority, no specific order. He was asking that like he's been asked to draw up plans for refurbishment of the tennis club, and he doesn't see any reflection of those capital improvements in the budget book. So his idea was capital improvements. Where are they showing up in the budget book? Yeah.
Doug, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning there. He's doing what? He's doing what? He doesn't see.
He said he's been asked to write up plans for refurbishment of the tennis club of the racket sports building.
Yes.
Yeah, and so he just wants to know where that stuff shows up in the budget since it's a quote unquote capital improvement. So, but
Yes,
my question,
this is actually a really good question. So that's in this year's budget.
oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So it's already been approved for it may not have been in the actual, right? It was a
Wasn't
question.
in the actual.
Yeah, so this is good. This needs clarification. It is a good question. So as I mentioned, we've already got the permits, the sketches, the architectural shovel to the ground in January. This is all this year, hopefully to be done by Memorial Day. So that's all in this year. It was in addition to last year's budget that was approved, which this was approved by the board.
Right.
Yep. That's a good question.
Second one is the fire department, but it doesn't really matter because he's talking about the South Side Station. We can't do anything until referendum, so that's not
Correct.
an issue.
So there's nothing in this proposed budget for the firehouse, but there is a big adjustment for the apparatus because Social Pines has taken on the majority of the funding for it. So there is an adjustment for that.
Oh, you answered the question I had teed up for when we go, when we go to do the fire department, but that's okay. Food beverage, no, I mean, that's not an issue. Oh, here's the last one. On the general administration revenue details page, the actuals for non-water lots in 2024 was 6,772. But in the budget for 2025, the number of lots dropped by 5 to 6,767, which resulted in an additional decrease in the budget revenue. Was this a typo?
Can't even think of anything that would change that.
767.
Yeah, I know.
You have the question?
Yeah, so the 767, obviously the lots as Brown Estates come online, we're adding to the lots. So it actually went up from 6767 to 6775.
So we'll look into that, Doug.
Okay. And matter of fact, John, I'll send you this. I'll just forward this email to you.
Perfect. Send that to us. I'll have Ruth there and Steve will do it. Yep, no problem.
Well, I was going to save all this for the general comments at the end, but since we're trying to kill some time, let's speak. I had one other question when it came to, there's on the assessment rates for all the lots, there are, you got non-water states, and they have commercial. Where are our 4 commercial lots?
Oh, man.
There's no number associated with it as far as an assessment price, but I just wanted to know, I'm just out of curiosity and what.
Doug, and right, so we'll give you this, Steve's looking up. So we have the Woodlawns now, they weren't in there before, well, they were there last year, but the Woodlawns and what else?
Catered living.
Well, that's the Woodlawns.
Which is.
There's 3 of them, right?
And then Coastal Hospice.
Yeah. So it's that whole, what you see on, I'm sorry?
Pines Point.
Pines Point. Why wasn't that? All right, let's reconcile that too. All right, the main thing is the Woodlawns, and we'll get your reconciliation on it, but we do have the commercial lots, and they weren't there years ago. But
I mean, there's no assessment associated with them. I was just curious.
It's because there's no rate. There's an amount, but there's a different rate.
It's a different contractual value, so it's $20,000 for all 4 approximately.
Okay, so they have the numbers. It's a total dollar amount. So I'm gonna let either Mark or Steve tell you what they are.
Yeah, so it's the Coastal Hospice is 10,500, catered living 7,210, and then Pines Point, which I need to check on, is 2,267.
You will get that. Yeah. Send us the question. We'll give you the detail behind it. That's what we get. Okay. Next.
I'm looking at my notes here. Hold on. No, not worth it. I'm not worried about that one.
Hey, throw it out there.
Well, you're looking at the departmental summary for the April 30th of 25, the end of this fiscal year. And the that is a $673,000 favorability to budget. Is that a number that we need to consider in the upcoming budget, or is that just going to be sitting back as favorability until it gets audited, until the audit in April, whenever it happens?
Talking about the favorability that we have this year, estimated at $670,000.
Okay, so Doug, I apologize. So the same procedure, same process is what we've done since we've had this type of favorability. It is not going to be factored into this 25-26 budget.
Okay.
Once the auditors sign off on it in July, then that money will be it'll be retained earnings where it is now, to be honest with you. that then would be for the next
Right,
year.
okay.
Or-
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
I
that
just
that was the
wanted,
case.
and we've researched this with other homeowners associations. Once it's real, once the auditors sign off and it's realized.
Okay,
And I've been consistent with that over the 3-4 years.
okay. Any other general stuff while we're waiting for the fire department?
Otherwise, we'll do the reserves if you want.
Let's go to replacement and capital reserves. Let's just
All right.
get that done too.
What number?
23.
23. All right, Linda's going to take us through the capital.
Okay, no, I think it's capital, capital's 24, actually. Capital, we're, projected to 1,226,040 for general replacement. New capital, 87,595. That's the 4 police interceptor and the shade structure, as mentioned earlier, for the courts. The aquatics, has the same that they usually have every year. We replace a handicap chair. We always have one in reserve in case one goes bad in the summer. Inverter, cat controllers, pool vacuum, that is all the same. Just we keep one in reserve. Pool furniture, that's the same amount as last year, 30,000. Concrete pad for Mumford's Landing Pool, it's starting to erode, so they're gonna extend it out a little.
Here it is.
Golf maintenance, all this is due to be replaced, the groundsmaster, John Deere, the yard being paved. Now, we do have the bridge on the 4th Fairway, which is scheduled, to be replaced, I think, before the fiscal year begins. And then we have the golf irrigation at 900,000 again. As far as racket, we do have the tennis court maintenance, pickleball maintenance, patio furniture, and court bench replacement, all general replacement. And then, as mentioned earlier, the shade structure for the pickleball courts.
Right, so I mentioned about that when we were doing racket sports on the shade. I need the expertise in-house to do what we did with the other 2 shade structures. We elected to put it in there. There might be other options if we can't get somebody. But we'd like to try to do it in-house, but we do want to constantly try to implement more shade as they tell us every year they need more shade. So we have something in there.
Yeah. Any questions on the capital request, capital purchases?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, on the summary level, you got, you were looking at a Ford Police Interceptor. And it's 65,595. Okay, follow me?
We're with you, Jack.
Okay, and I got this letter and stuff that, there is a Dodge involved and it's like $10,000 or $20,000 cheaper. I don't have it in front of me, but.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Ford Police Interceptor.
What do we, I mean, is one just an estimate or
Yeah,
are
one,
we gonna buy a Durango or what,
Only has 3 wheels.
huh?
Has 3 wheels.
Has 3 wheels?
That's it.
That's it? Oh, you only get 3 wheels with the Durango? Is that,
it's basically the full outfitting of the vehicle, so the laptop and the lights and the detailing, all that stuff is added in on that. And it actually refers to a Ford Police Interceptor, but that's the vehicle we're actually replacing. It's a Dodge Durango that's actually being replaced, or actually we're replacing it.
The chief prefers the Dodge Durango, Jack.
he prefers the Durango?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, that's good.
Okay. Any other questions on capital? Okay, yeah, I never really worry too much about capital. The stuff's needed all the time. It's, it's there. I guess I'll defer my question until we get here in the reserves. All right, unless there's anything else on capital, let's move over to reserves.
Was that 23?
23.
Okay,
Yes,
so
23.
reserve contribution, Steve, jump in.
All right, so I'll focus on the second schedule, which is the roll forward. On the top level schedule, you can just see that the total contribution that we have budgeted from the operating fund is $3.875 million. That's the number that I touched on earlier in the general admin section. So if we look at the roll forward, which is the second page, you can see that the balance coming out of the audit this year, we have $7.1 million in total reserves, 5.5 in general replacement. You can see the transfers that we have from the assessments this year, 1,575, that is actually going up this year to 1,787 to align with the DMA reserve study. For bulkheads, as you know, the differential is going up. The actual piece of the bulkheads that goes to all owners is actually going down $10. So net, it results in a contribution of $1.2 million into bulkheads for this coming year.
How are you getting 75,000 interest on roads when you got only 750,000 in
Yeah, it should be rated pretty well. So we take the interest based on the average balance during the course of the year. 75, I can double check that number, but.
Yeah, I've asked Steve to double check the interest on, and I know you guys want me to put more interest in there, but the roads, it looks high to me.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of them look nice to me.
And in terms of our estimated spend, you had asked about the racket center as one of your questions. That's in that $2.7 million that we have estimated to end the year with. So we have some irrigation expenses, then we have that racket center renovation. Right now through November, I think we're at about 1.9, just shy of 2 million. So after all the expenses flush through, it puts us at an estimated general replacement reserve of 4.9 at the end of this fiscal year, 6.4 in the total reserves. Contributions, as I mentioned, we go up in general replacement. We are contributing about $10 of the assessment for about $85,000 in the new capital, cover the new capital that we just touched on in the previous section. And then also for the jet skis that we talked about this morning for the marina. The interest expense, the $500,000 spread based on average balance. And then the casino funds, which we talked about this morning, going up total of $500,000. We're allocating $200K to roads, $300K to drainage. After all the spending, puts us back up in general replacement to about 5.8 million, and it gets us back to the 7.1 that we came out of the audit with this year.
So one of the things when you look at replacement, and Steve mentioned we were going to be down to about 4.9, and Steve will jump in. We did do several items approved by the board, for instance, the racket sports, a few others that took our replacement balance down a little more than where we wanted to be, especially with the reserve study coming. So you can see in the 25-26 proposed budget, we're trying to increase to get back. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes.
So you can see that. So we have an increase in contribution there, trying to get back there in that 5 million so that we can keep that percentage at 28% that we said we would do. We've stayed within that towards the high end since 2017. Please keep in mind that the firehouse, depending on how we fund that in the next budget, not this one, that would have, if we self-fund it, would have a big effect on our balance here. But I'll talk about that at another time. But I do want to put it out there if anybody has questions, because it is something we're going to have to look at in the next several months.
Yeah, going back to, I don't know, you can't see this. Remember this sheet that Steve put together a while ago that showed, we were tracking the percentage that we had in reserves. This was just for replacement reserves to make sure we were above it. And it looks like these numbers are consistent. I just want to make sure. So we're projecting replacement reserve balance of 5.77 at the end of FY 25-26. And if you look at it, unless it's been updated.
So Doug, and I got it in my hand. I mean, this is one of the best tools.
I really like this one. This was, this really spoke volumes.
So if we go to 24-25,
no.
Can you guys hear me, ladies, guys? So if you go to 24-25, you update this? Yeah. We're going to be around 22%. After this contribution, what we're talking about forecasting including the irrigation?
Yes.
Including the irrigation for 25-26 will be around 25.4, which is kind of where we want it to be. So we'll get there. Now, if we self-fund the firehouse, obviously, you're pulling out $2.5 million. We could have a situation as far as that percentage. But that's for another time, but that time's gonna probably come up in the next couple of months.
Right. Right.
Now, with this budget, what I need to tell you is we'll be around 25-26%.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, I just want to make sure, because the target was to stay above 22%. We've obviously done that for the past couple of years, and unless the firehouse coming up did that was a variable that we hadn't really planned on that far back. So
3 to 6 months. Yep.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with the reserve. We'll be all in 7.1 at the end of FY 25-26, which is
that sufficient?
well.
It's
So
healthy. I mean,
So that's why I asked about the reserve study. I know there's been a discussion about the fact that depending on what comes out of the reserve study, I mean, John, correct me if I'm wrong. The number we have right now meets all the requirements for as an organization this side and the amount of reserves we're supposed to have. Now, based on law or a different approach for the next reserve study, will that change? I don't know. That's the wild card.
What about the stuff that was floating around about the legislature for, they were talking about putting through some legislation that would require homeowners associations to reserve 100%?
No, but there's, John, I see, John, you want to?
Yeah, I'm with you, John. Yeah, it's crazy. So where is that? Where are they going?
So let's answer this pertinent question. You're right. We are being told, first of all, there was legislation that said anybody had to go out and get a third party to review your reserves. Not many homeowners associations did that. We already did that. So we were in compliance, and we also are in compliance, because if you have one, you have to do another one within 5 years, thus the April 26, 2026, which would be within our 5 years. I already spoke to Doug Green on that. So what you're saying now is so there has been legislation saying you have to have it, and you have to have what the third party tells you. Now, what I believe you're referring to, something good, what you're referring to is that they're actually going to tell us, what percentage or how much you should have. That hasn't happened yet. Sure, we've heard things like 100% funded or whatever. There's no indications on any reserve studies that we've reviewed that they're actually being told that. I know that just in this local area, some have already had it, and they've had to go to their boards or whatever and get to that level that the third party told them over maybe 5 years or 10 years or whatever, something like that. So it's more lines like that. It's more on the, what's it called, Steve, the cash
flow method.
Cash flow method. So this percentage isn't exactly the cash flow method. There was different ways of doing it. This was kind of a hybrid, which everybody accepted, though, back in 2017, and DMA blessed it.
Yeah.
The next one you're probably going to hear me speak about, or them speak about, the cash flow method, which probably in general, this almost equals. The cash flow method does not say 100%, unless that's what your cash flow has to be. Want to jump in on anything, Steve?
No, well said.
Well said, he says. Okay. Good question, Jack. That's the answer. Anything else? Where do I think we are? Well, I've mentioned for this year, I mentioned for last year, I believed it was Goldilocks. I don't know what it will be in a year and a half when he comes in. I know we're doing a lot of spend. I know I have the fire department. We have to decide whether we're going to borrow the money or borrow from ourselves or from the outside, because we did not fund over the years to replace that firehouse. Now, fortunately, and all good pluses and compliments to everybody that got us those grants, we did get how much? $1.7 million for the firehouse, whoever, $1.7 million to help out with that. But there are millions that still need to be funded by Ocean Pines. It's a big number to be out there. So when everybody's telling you we have a lot of money or we have this, that, you got to give them the whole perspective because they're missing a couple board updates or whatever.
Yeah, true. All right, any other questions on reserves? No, I think we're in good shape. Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious to see what the I guess the decision will be with regard to self-funding versus borrowing money for the South Fire Station. I mean, but I mean, for folks that are listening in, I mean, that's a complex calculation. You look at, interest paid on that loan over a period of time versus, do we put ourselves in jeopardy by going below a prescribed level for reserve funding based on the amount of assets we have? So, it's not something just go, oh, just do this. Well, there's a lot of pieces that are, interacting that, could put us maybe even at risk at some point. So.
Right. And something for all of us to talk about. Let's get past this budget, the food and beverage contract, and a few other things. Obviously, that's going to be the big financial debate, and it'll be good.
Okay. All right. So again, we're still waiting for the fire department to come in. I think that's all that we have, unless there are some general comments, questions that while we've got John and his team here that we want to ask about the budget in general.
I just want to say kudos to John and the team. It's a solid budget, so thanks for all your hard work and dedication.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you from my entire team, our team. All right, so while we're waiting for them to come in and we're not sure we see them, let's give some facts. So the public safety percentage of assessment, I've spoken about this in board meeting, but let's just talk about it. If I go back to a base year, fiscal year 18-19, when the assessment was 951, public safety, which was obviously police, fire, EMS, reserves, approximately 24.5% of the budget. So for every $100, $24.50 went towards safety. When I go fast forward to the year I'm in now, 24-25, it's approximately 39%. It's gone up 15% of the assessment. Now, obviously, the assessment came down, so that helped increase the percentage. The percentage for this proposed budget is somewhere for safety, fire, EMS, and police. 41% of our assessment will be will be for safety, which has dollar-wise increased, and look, everywhere else. So there has been a lot of efficiencies, amenities, and doing better, and all that stuff. That if it wasn't for that, it would be even higher.
So good afternoon, folks. Just wanted to.
All right, this is good. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So we have the presentation we put together. Nuts and the bolts of it is we just tried to make sure that everyone kind of just better understood what our year was like, the different challenges that we're facing, and just that we are going to continue to do the mission that we've set out to do is try to provide the highest level of service and safety to our community. Looking in here for 2024, just kind of a recap of our calls. We just finished the numbers this morning. 2,125 EMS calls for service and 335 fire calls for service. From the fire call standpoint, that equates to 3,827 man hours that were put in to volunteer to protect the community. We've also put in over 2,400 hours of fundraising to help supplement the budget requests that we have. Moving forward, our current challenges, as we all know, are facility limitations. Thankfully, we have the new MRU, and we're working towards that being hopefully an opportunity coming up in this year. We also have the increased call volume, aging equipment, and the overall inflation that's going on right now. Unfortunately, and for some reason, inflation is really hitting things in the public safety sector. As we talked about before, when we talk about apparatus, we went from buying fire trucks that were $350,000, $400,000 to them being about $1 million now. Which is just, it's out of our hands, and it's just unfortunate. An example we put in here of kind of also rising costs are, there's costs of outfitting a firefighter. Right now, it costs us a little over $6,500 just to outfit one firefighter. And that's really not even to the standards that the NFPA set up. NFPA says that we should have at least 2 sets of gear to help reduce the contamination and things like that. This is just to have 1 set of gear. Now, the chief and I, we're working with our members to write grants And we have different grants that are in process right now to be able to get additional sets of gear, to get gear washer and dryers and things like that. So we're not asking the community right now for additional funding for that gear outside of what our normal replacement schedule is. But in reality, every firefighter that is operational should have 2 sets because they know that it's going to reduce the risk of cancer from the carcinogens and the off-gassing. All right, so moving forward, goals for this year is address critical safety and operational needs, invest in updated training tools and props, progress the South Station building project, maintain and upgrade essential apparatus and equipment, and continue to sustain a high quality service delivery to the community. This is just our commitment to the community. So our proposed budget. So our overall proposed budget to Ocean Pines this year is $1,120,151.85. That includes everything from apparatus and equipment replacement, training, resources, maintenance and operations, as well as employee and volunteer expenses. Okay. To come up with that number, we first calculated our projected revenues. So from EMS billing, we projected a little over 600,000, county fire grants around 300,000, county EMS grants around 870,000, state grants around 32,000, as well as interest and dividends from our investments at about 60,000. So all in all, we're projecting about $1,886,714. When we are talking about our expenses, one of the things that is different this year, and you'll note that, is our capital requests. This year, our capital requests are $451,500. This includes the updated apparatus replacement. So that for the Ocean Pines part is $375,000. That would account for an overall apparatus replacement fund to be $500,000, with OPA having 75% and Ocean Pines Fire Department having 25%.
So Doug, that's the increase we talked about based upon the MOU and the agreement with the board. So that is reflected in there. It's obviously reflected in our assessment, and that's in there.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, one of the suggestions that I had made back then is that maybe we take on a higher burden, of the replacement cost for apparatus. And the only question I have is, has anything been added to the list of apparatus on the apparatus replacement schedule, or is it the same number of assets and, we're just funding at a higher level?
Same number of assets. Nothing's been changed.
Because I got the asset schedule or the apparatus replacement schedule for a couple of years ago, and I'm just assuming nothing's really changed.
Doug, hold on one second.
The only thing that should change from year to year, one, if we obviously buy a vehicle that's not in that, but we haven't done that, and then the increase that we've talked about, 5%.
So everything else has been the same.
Yeah, everything else has been the same.
Yeah, so everything else the same. Obviously, the increase in price, which we're seeing with all kinds of equipment.
Hey, is there a chance we could get an updated copy of the replacement schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just if you send it to me, that'd be great, because I got an old copy from 3 years ago.
Okay. Yep.
Steve will send it. He'll work. He'll
one.
copy Joe and Joey and anybody else.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing in here is the fire capital purchases. Chief, do you want to talk about that?
So the fire capital purchases is air packs for the new engine in 2025. We've asked 60,000 for that. I've got 2 quotes sitting in front of me, roughly between $10,000 to $13,000 a piece for each pack. So we're going to try to get 5 to 6 packs for the new engine, air packs, breathing apparatus to go for the new engine in 2025.
We've also worked to, last year we applied for Assistance for Firefighters grant to replace our large allotment of fire or air packs. Unfortunately, we didn't get that grant, but we've reapplied. And so we should know more about that hopefully by the end of March. So if that's the case, that these funds might be able to be reallocated for something different. But right now, to make sure that we're not hit with a large $300,000 hit at one time, the chief would like to kind of go through and start to do this incrementally if we can. Okay. The next thing on here is the EMS capital purchases. That's a new line item for this year. And so that is to update the actual computer tablets that are in each of the medic units. We have 3 units, so each one needs a new computer, as well as the charging docks, the mounting stations, and everything like that. We're looking at a couple different things because there's some new manufacturers out there. So we're going to get prices on that and try to get the best bang for our buck for that.
So Steve, all this is reflected because I know it's not on your list schedule.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that's what you'll get.
Captain Booth can go over the tablets if we miss
No, we got it.
Okay.
It's a separate schedule.
So all in all, when it comes down to our budget, our overall operating expenses are $599,733.65, and I should say projected. Our projected compensation cost is $1,955,132.20. Capital equipment, which we just went over, was $451,500 for total expenditures projected at $3,005,865.85. If you subtract the projected revenue of $1.8 million, that leaves us with our total request at $1,120,151.85.
Okay, and I'm just asking Steve, that all ties to the schedule there,
That's correct.
which is prepared by the fire. This one,
The second
The
schedule
second,
is
that's
is
what-
prepared by fire.
Yes.
okay,
And that's on the back copy of the
oh, you have it on there?
program, yes.
Okay, I see it. Okay, yeah, there it is. Good.
Okay. Questions? Don?
And one, what are you doing to recruit firemen, firefighters? And are you behind? Do you need more? Where do you stand?
We always need more. I mean,
Right.
we obviously, just like anything else, we always need more. We do a recruitment and retention program per se. Joe, at all the functions, we have applications for anybody who wants to talk. The website's pretty outlined, and then all the community events we try to go to, selling tickets for fundraising. We also do some type of recruitment and retention thing for them too.
Is it possible to go to military and the military guys that are retiring and stuff like that?
So that is definitely an area that we are looking at targeting. So every year we try to enhance the different recruitment strategies that we have, and retired military or retired firefighters from career firefighters from other places when they come down here, or other target audiences. So that definitely will be something that we look at. Right now we are experiencing a good wave of having new members come in. They are very unexperienced at this point. So we've had several that completed Fire 1 this year, last year, and we have a couple that are going through or getting ready to start a class here in January. So we're seeing a good level of interest. Is it what it was 30 years ago? No. But is it better than where we were probably 3 or 4 years ago? I would say so.
Good.
And I would say a part of that too is the cooperation from the community and the cooperation from the board with helping us with the new firehouse, helping us with some different incentives for the members, and we're greatly appreciative of that.
All right, thanks.
Other questions? Oh, I have one. It's probably somewhat insignificant. If you look at the part-time wages between the previous fiscal year and this current fiscal year, they went up like a little over 12K. And from this fiscal year to the proposed budget, they're only going up another 6K. Are you anticipating needing less part-time workers, or is it the increase just due to, a change in the per hourly rate for a part-time worker, and you're going to keep the same amount of folks?
We had a span of time where we were short a full-time employee. So we had to have more part-time people fill in because of that vacancy.
Okay.
So that vacancy's been filled. She's actually starting full-time on the 5th of January. So that filled that vacancy. So that should decrease that part-time amount.
Oh, well, I was kind of going to ask the opposite. Is that going to be enough for you? But it sounds like you got it handled. Okay.
I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed and say yes.
As long as nobody gets hurt or sick, we'll be okay.
Knock on some wood, please.
We'll keep our fingers crossed too. Okay. Any other questions? I think this is pretty clean, pretty straightforward. It's been like this for the past couple of years. So you guys, I will say to Joe and Joe, every time we get this report from the fire department, it's always well prepared. It's easy to read. It does a nice comparison between the previous fiscal year and the current fiscal year, and and the projected need for that. So you guys, this is easy to work on. I appreciate the work you guys put into it.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. So and the South, just for public record, John, I hope I'm not overstepping here, but the South Side Fire Station is not on the agenda right now because it's not in this budget. So
Next week on the 8th.
It's
The same presentation to the board should be straightforward. Okay?
Okay. I got no more questions, John.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to the fire
We'll
department.
we'll send that updated schedule for the apparatus to y'all.
Sure.
Steve.
Oh, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Well done.
Does anybody else want a copy?
The apparatus replacement.
All right. And you guys just hold on. All right, so Doug, anything else for budget and finance? Any questions, anything? Summarize whatever you want from us. We're here.
I think we've covered everything. I mean, we've covered all the notes that I had, in my review, and obviously a number of questions were asked. I think, as I'm sure you're aware, I don't have to say this out loud, but I will, the process has gotten easier and easier, each year. Some of us that have been around, obviously your team, the level of efficiency in not only preparing it, but reviewing it has gone up tremendously. And, those of us that certainly want to recognize that and appreciate it. So other than that, I don't really have any other requests. The only thing I would just remind the board, John, I will send you this note that I got from Frank Brown.
Yes.
It has a couple of questions on it. And then nothing has changed in the guidance that we've provided for the board, other than should interest income be increased, which is one of the things we asked about, and should the credit card fee be included in the cost of fuel, the cost of other transactions? The question is, we don't have to have to answer it. We just, it's a topic for discussion, for consideration. And it's, it could be, well, not this year, but we'll keep it on for it next year, or so on and so forth. So those are the only things that I was going to kind of summarize as the end of this meeting. Anything else we're missing?
Back rub.
Back rub.
All right.
I got to go to physical therapy again. So, all right, well, guys, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
I will entertain. Wait a minute.
Do you want to see you?
I will entertain a motion for
Absolutely.
adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, third.
All right. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is now adjourned.
Okay.
Okay.